What's up, everyone? Hope you're having a great Friday. It is a very special edition of GameFace, our Best of E3 2016 awards. We have, around a dozen awards to give out? I never even counted them. Somewhere around there.
4, 5, 6,
we have a lot.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Yep, a couple fun ones, and we're actually going to do, we're not going to have like the big six this week. It's not like a usual episode of GameFace. You're going to be able to see the footage of all the games full screen tonight. And in the archive as well. But we do have a couple other topics we want to get to before we actually get to our Best of E3. But before we get to that, what we want to do first is talk a little bit about E3, Matt. Mm-hmm. What was your overall impressions of the show?
Subdued. I think. Any E3 is a crazy, massive hysteria, but like...
It's not like it was nothing.
Right. But compared to... a lot of other ones, especially last year, I would say it felt a little low-key.
Yeah. I was there late Wednesday, and then I was there all day Thursday. And I walked into the convention center right when it opened on Thursday, and I felt like I was literally the only person there. There was a massive line for Zelda that stretched on literally for maybe a mile, just snaking through the convention center.
This is the longest line I've ever seen for anything in E3.
Yeah.
I've been to 18 of them. I've never seen anything that long.
They closed the line at like an hour after the show started. Like just shut it off.
I was there all 3 days. Wednesday morning, I went to Zelda first. I got to Zelda probably at like 10:15.
Yeah.
The line was already closed.
A lot of the people that were in line for Zelda had already played it.
Because they're all wearing a shirt
They were wearing, like, the free shirt that you got. I don't know if you guys have seen the video of, like, the stampede of people running for Zelda, but I guess depending on
people.
Come on, people. I found that pretty funny. We're going to talk about Zelda here in a minute because we didn't really get a chance to because Nintendo really didn't do a press conference.
Right.
So we did analysis of every press conference except for Nintendo because they didn't do one. So we're going to talk about Zelda
and even when they did put some stuff up, you had to sit through 40 minutes of Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
So we are going to get to that. But I would agree, Matt. It felt subdued. Like I saw that E3 put out the numbers. It said 70,000 people total came through the show. A slight dip compared to the number it put out last year. But I would argue that it probably, to me, was way less than 70,000.
It sure felt like a lot more people left after Wednesday than last year.
I'm wondering too if
I went to the other hall, the opposite hall, because you were in South Hall.
Yeah.
No, you were in West Hall.
West Hall, yeah.
And I went to South Hall first Thursday morning, and there was a point at which I felt like I had snuck in.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm supposed to be in here, right?
It was creepy.
Okay, right?
It was great, though. I literally went and played everything I wanted in like 5 hours.
Yeah, Thursday, you got a lot done on Thursday when that happens. But but it was like weird because South Hall was also sort of where that's where EA used to be. It's where Activision used to be. All the people that pulled out this year, that's where they were, and there were just wastelands on the far left and right of that hall. And I went over to the far side, and there was no one there except the people working there. There was a band playing soul versions of video game music. They were pretty good.
Was
too.
that in the 2K booth for Mafia 3?
No,
they had like a whole band.
That was a jazz quartet they had for Mafia 3. But no, these guys were. I don't know what the booth was. It was just like a wooden stage that was as far to the left as you could get in that hall, and it was set up with benches and beanbag chairs and big things. They were playing the Street Fighter medley.
Nice.
And literally no one was watching them play. And I was I looked at the Natsume booth. I was looking around at some of the smaller stuff over there, and I started kind of humming. I mean, they were good. I was kind of humming along, but I wasn't going to stop to watch them. But it was just dutifully plowing through their set because they were hired to do it. God damn it!
And they were probably paid quite well to do it. I'd add.
And just those gaming chairs that every Twitch streamer has.
Yeah.
Or those kind of racing gear chairs. There's it's a booth full of those. No one there except the employees just sort of sitting in the chairs.
Oh, I think it was the Twitch booth, wasn't it? It was the whole back side of the Twitch booth that had those really expensive bougie chairs.
They had that. Well, they had that booth. It was specific to the brand that makes those chairs, but it was diagonally right from Twitch.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, the area that used to have EA and Activision in it, it was Indiecade. And usually Indiecade is shoved all the way to the edge, and it's this little small area. Yeah. This year, it was huge. I don't know if the ESA was just take the space, we didn't sell it, but there's a lot more space dedicated to that. Another observation I had is that I believe there were more booths for video game websites than there were for video game publishers.
In that hall? Maybe.
Just overall.
Maybe.
I was like...
It'd be a close call.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, everybody had a booth there. Like, I even saw Shack News had a booth for the first time, like, ever. I mean, no disrespect to those guys, but I don't know if, like, there ended up being, like, a fire sale on, like, booth space, but it's like, you have IGN, you have GameSpot, you have Shack News, you got Twitch, you got YouTube. I mean, it's just like, there's more people covering the show than there are places to cover. It was really
I almost
bizarre.
expected the G4 booth to be back, just for no good reason.
I almost expected to go to the Starbucks and see our old GT booth like stood up there again, so it looked like the show was busy. But, I mean, looking back to the way it was, for instance, when we had that booth at GT, the show has shrunk a lot. I mean...
Well, you lose EA, you lose a lot of foot traffic, there's a lot of people over at that thing.
Yeah.
And also, like, the Marriott hotel is going to become where everybody does like business stuff. So like I wonder how many people attend E3 but never actually make it to the floor.
Yeah, it could be. And I also wonder too if the numbers that the ESA put out, if they're counting their E3 live thing.
Oh my God.
Which, by the way, they stole
Disaster.
from Spike TV's live broadcast. I was surprised they used that. I guess Spike never copyrighted or trademarked it or whatever. But
those of us who remembered E for All were not surprised how that turned out.
Oh, it was a disaster. Like, the people who went were, like, even though it was free.
Right.
That shows you how bad it was. It was free, and people were still pissed off about it.
Oh, you make me go downtown for nothing, I'm going to be pissed off.
Or,
sure.
I mean, some people may have traveled, like, an hour or two. Some people may have even flown to L.A. for that thing.
Yeah.
And, like, apparently there were, like, no games.
There's, like, a Lego Dimensions demo and, like, a bunch of minor VR things, and, like, then, like, here, come buy a T-shirt.
And merch, like, buy stuff. Like, it sounds like it was an awful bait and switch by the ESA there. Let's look forward to next year. What changes do you see coming to the show, Matt?
I'm going to be interested to see if EA comes back. I didn't get any sense of whether they thought their LA Live event was better or worse, or I'm sure it was cheaper. And I know that like more and more stuff has started to sort of seep over to LA Live over the last couple of years. Like last year, I remember they had like the Just Cause 3 parachute simulator thing where like it was like the air tunnel thing. And now there's like way more stuff over there.
And it should. I mean, that's a great area there. Like if you ever go to like a basketball or a hocky game at Staples Center, like that area down there is cool.
Yeah.
Like
And it's a
lots
big
of great
open
restaurants,
plaza.
lots of
There's room
happening.
to do stuff. Like it's a good space. And LA will close off the streets as needed. Like it's a big space they haven't exploited yet.
E3 should make E3 like a festival.
Yeah.
And just take over that whole area downtown, make it fun. Like that band that you were talking about, like why not have them playing in the square there? So while people are eating, they can sit and listen to video game music played live. Like I think next year there's going to be finally, for the first time in the history of E3, a public day. I think that's the carrot that they're going to have to dangle on the stick to make sure that Activision and EA come back next year. I was talking to, maybe it was you who told me, someone was telling me that Oculus spent 8 times as much for the same booth space as Anime Expo.
Really?
Yeah, someone at Packers Party was telling me that's the difference between booth space, the cost of booth space at E3 versus the cost of booth space at every other convention. It's like 8 times the cost.
Wow.
And so Oculus, I don't even know if you saw them. They were shoved all the way over on the end. I was lucky to even run into them. But
I think that's where they were last year, too.
And look, Oculus has all the money it could ever want. And even it was like, whoa, like this is like too much for what we're getting here. So, to get all the publishers back in and to not have to just, in all honesty, flat bottom their prices for the booth space. Because if they don't, either they let the public in or they're going to have to hit rock bottom prices for the booth space or they're going to keep losing people. Because EA, I guarantee, even though they had their own event, spent way less money doing their own event than they did if they were at E3 like they were in prior years. So something's got to give. The world's changing. People demand access more. Obviously, there's with YouTubers and Twitch streamers, there's a lot more people covering games. I mean, just look at the floor. Like I said, how many booths were there just for like websites there? So, the times are changing. E3 has been slow to change along with them, and I think next year you're going to see their first step towards like what they did at TGS or what they do at Gamescom.
I wonder. I think I feel like the next step is more like make E3 Live not suck.
Yeah, that
rather
could be.
than let people in the actual hall.
Yeah.
I feel like the publishers aren't quite ready for that yet. Also, the hall isn't ready for. I mean, you thought Zelda was bad this year. Like letting everybody in is like that's going to be even crazier.
Well, it would be. They would still have the press days, so it would run for press like us as it always does up until Thursday, and then maybe Friday and Saturday. Then you do 2 days for the public to.
Well, then you're paying for everybody to do their E3 job 2 more days, and that gets expensive too.
What do you mean by everybody?
Like people have to work the booths, people have to tear down the stuff on a weekend now instead of a weekday. Like
but it's built into the cost now. Instead of EA having to spend all the money to do something at a different location, it's just all rolled into that one location. And assuming that the ESA wouldn't jack up the cost of the booth space because it runs an extra 2 days, which with the way the ESA operates, I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest with you. So. I don't know. I think something's going to have to change. The show.
I think there's a lot of meetings that have to be had at this point if you're going to keep the show in the form it is now. And let's not forget the point of E3 is for retailers and distributors to come together. See that it's a business expo. It's not there for us. It's not there for the gamers. It's not there for the press. It's not there for all that stuff. Sort of happened as a remora on the back of this giant retail shark expo.
Yeah.
And.
That all started like at CES,
right?
Yeah.
Right, but mostly, I mean, it spun off because it was taking over CES,
right?
And so they're like, oh, we need our own thing. So like, all those business deals still happen, all that stuff's still successful, and that whole aspect of E3, which is the reason it happens, is still healthy as ever. So, there might be an element of like ESA don't care.
Yeah, it all comes down to money.
Yeah,
everything always does.
Of course.
And if the ESA thinks it can make more money by letting the public in for a couple days and at the same time satiate the concerns of the publishers, I think that's something they'll do. I could see your solution being just as likely.
Yeah.
I'm
not saying it would work.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to take another shot at E3 Live.
I would prefer that. Like I would prefer to have this like festival atmosphere around E3 and make it more fun. Like it's kind of stodgy, and I think leaving the show yesterday, like, I walked out thinking to myself, this is supposed to be, like, the best gaming event in the world every year, and it's not anymore. Like, Gamescom pretty much destroys E3 at this point. Like, it is better for everybody. It's bigger, it's louder. If that happened in America, it would get even more press than E3 does. So, I see changes afoot. We'll see exactly how drastic or extreme they are.
I'm just curious if anything can lure EA back there again.
This might be tough. I think a lot of it depends on their lineup and if they have a lot of games that are multiplayer heavy, which they usually will, because they're always going to have a shooter in sports games, which just organically works with large audiences and gets people engaged competitively. So, I don't know. We'll see. Still a great show. Well, I don't know about great.
It was good.
It was good. They've continued the tradition of let's just put the indie games on the show floor, and the stuff that people really want to see, they got to wait in line for hours and hours to see.
Right.
Obviously, we're lucky; we can just jump lines and see stuff. Just talk to PR, and we get in.
But not everything.
Yeah.
Like everyone's, the popular stuff is right. I will say this: like the last few years has been a lot easier to walk up and just get your hands on after a couple minutes of waiting for like 80% of the stuff on the floor.
Yeah.
But the 20% you can't do that with is all the biggest
is the stuff that you want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
But I got to play any indie game I wanted to see. I could go, even like up in the meeting room places.
Yeah.
Those places. If you have a media badge, they're pretty open to
just let you come in and play.
Just let you come in or like check it out. Like it's not as like crazy packed as it once was, which is nice. Like 2007 wasn't good, but I understood why they made that shift because 2006 was like crazy.
It was,
like 2006, I remember
I got angry at 2006.
Oh yeah, like we couldn't even get our camera crews
couldn't
through
get
the
our
floor.
jobs
like,
done.
It was ridiculous, and it was.
And I get it. Like, look, I was once one of those people that would just do anything to get in there and would love to go in and like. But it's still after it's the third day of like people just constantly walking through your shots and just ruining takes. Like sometimes you have your talent there. And they've done a take like 4 times. They freaking nail it, and some dude walks through the shot. And after that happens, like, by the third day straight of that happening, I was just like, ah!
Although I have to say, there was some very creative photobombing at the Bethesda pre- and post shows.
Oh, yeah, for
with
sure.
Evan Morgan. Props to the guy who changed his shirt 4 or 5 times between gameplay segments, and like every time you come back, he's sitting in the audience right between them, and he's a different shirt on every time they come back to them. And then like Morgan was interviewing someone, and there's a guy just standing in the middle of the shot behind them eating a turkey leg.
Where do you get a turkey leg?
I think it was what they were giving. I think it was like a For Honor reference. I would think they're giving out turkey leg, but he's just sitting there eating a turkey leg, and like you can, and he's occasionally like producers must have been like, get the fuck in, and he's just like, just eating my turkey leg, watching the interview.
The third-party publishers I thought were much better. You could go into their booths and actually play like their biggest stuff. Like Capcom had like Dead Rising 4 on the floor. Square Enix had pretty much its whole library that it was showing at E3 there.
I got into the Resident Evil 7 demo near the end of Wednesday, like with almost pretty much walked in.
Yeah.
It was a good setup.
But Microsoft and Sony, the stuff that they put on the floor is like the B-level grade stuff, like King of Fighters 14 and things like that, or all the indie stuff.
Although it wasn't too bad until the last day. I heard it wasn't too bad a wait to see Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
But mainly because I think a lot of people got to play each round. That was like 2 multiplayer groups against each other.
Yeah, it's like every time it was like 16 people in, 16 people out, so it can move people really quickly. And then to your point you were talking about earlier about how you have to wait in line to check out the upper 10% of games that you really want to see. In most of those cases, you don't get to play the games.
Right.
Like you go into a theater and you sit there and they play a demo for you. And chances are, like the demo will be a little longer than what you saw at the press conference.
Days Gone, God of War were both like there was more to them than what we saw in the press conference. Same thing happened with Horizon Zero Dawn last year, where like there was what they showed in the theater was was expanded. Although I think what they showed in the theater ended up being what they released to everybody on the internet at Gamescom as like kind of the video.
They actually ended up releasing the longer a video of the longer demo version of Days Gone, like just period on YouTube. So
there was a lot of cool extra stuff in that, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess that's our general impressions of the show. Before we move into the show proper, we have one more thing we want to talk about. We want to look at our E3 predictions to see how we did. So let's take a look here. So your first E3 prediction, Matt, was no new Elder Scrolls announced. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I think we got that one.
You got that one right. My first one was Battlefield 1 at the Microsoft press conference.
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding. Your second one, Xbox and Oculus team up.
Well, my main thing on this was both that and HoloLens MIA.
Yeah.
So HoloLens was indeed MIA, not a mention of it, but they didn't seem to go any further with their Oculus partnership. Although I bet when they are ready to talk about Scorpio in depth next year, we'll hear about that. But
I think I'll give you a half on that one. Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right. We don't have a sound effect for the half right. My second one, E3 2016 will be a disappointment. That's kind of a subjective thing, like depending on anyone's perspective. I would say I was right on the money until Sony's press conference. And then Sony's press conference made me only kind of right, I think.
I think you were right in spirit, in the sense that, like, in comparison to last year, it was very low-key, very muted. It was sort of everybody seemed to be kind of holding their breath for the new hardware next year.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I can totally understand why someone would come away from this E3 and feel disappointed. I didn't feel too disappointed by it, but like I think that is a totally understandable point of view.
I would also say, too, there's kind of two different perspectives. There's the perspective of the person who sat at home and watched the coverage and watched the press conferences, and then there's the perspective of the person who actually goes to the show. And as someone who actually went to the show, I think it was a disappointment. But I could see where if someone's just sitting at home watching all the press conferences, consuming over 1,100 pieces of content on Sifted, they would probably say it wasn't. So I'll give myself half of that one. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that fair? All right, your next one, Mother 3 for the West.
Totally wrong.
Let me flip the switch on this one here, Matt. Oh,
nope.
wait.
You want the one in the middle, I think.
There's one in the middle?
Yeah, there's a setting in the middle.
Let's see if this one is right.
There you go.
That's a fun one.
I'm glad they didn't steal that.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that cost that was free.
Yeah.
They left that behind.
I even asked somebody at the Nintendo booth about that, and they just laughed at me. I was like, he didn't say anything about Mother 3. They're like, no. It's Zelda year, you fool. Like, yeah.
And only Zelda year. Yeah. Zelda and Pokemon Sun and Moon, that's pretty much it. And a couple 3DS games. Nintendo's showing was not great. So yeah, you weren't good on that one. My next one was Sea of Thieves will be a Game of the Show contender. I'm going to give myself the applause for that one.
Certainly has shown up on several nominee lists.
Yeah, I saw it on 5 different websites today as nominee for Game of the Show. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think it deservedly so. It deserves to be on those lists. But yeah, I'll give myself a go on that one. Your next one, Matt. Grand Theft Auto 5 Story DLC and a Red Dead remaster.
Yeah, this is my out on a limb one.
I might have to give you two buzzers for that one.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been a very disappointing E3 if they'd announced that.
That's true. You're absolutely right. Those two kind of tied together. But yeah, we heard nothing about GTA at all. Actually, no. Rockstar, just nothing.
Nothing at all.
2K was there.
Rockstar was busy playing with the HoloLens.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, so you missed both of those. My next one, no release date for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Possibly the easiest prediction in the history of E3.
Still correct, though.
Yep.
I don't know. They showed it last year.
Yeah, but
Here we are a year later.
I didn't think they were going to. Not with the 2.8 final prologue chapter entry textbook, whatever the hell that thing is coming in December. Yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3 is next year for Lucky.
Yeah. But I still thought they might announce a release date since it was there last year.
I don't think Square is dumb enough to commit to anything less than 9 months out anymore. I think maybe Final Fantasy 15 taught them something.
Yep. And then
we'll get into that later.
We shall. Your last prediction, EA will not show Visceral's Star Wars game.
So, we didn't get a title.
They showed it,
5 seconds.
They showed it, though.
I don't count that.
I count it.
Nah.
What do you say, chat? They showed 5 seconds of the game.
If you're satisfied with that, I don't know what fucking planet you're operating on.
We'll let the chat decide. All right, what is it, chat? Does Matt get that one or not? I say he doesn't. He says he does.
Also, I did say when I sent you the email, like, shows nothing, we get no title, but we might get like 5 to 10 seconds, like the Battlefront teaser.
That's true. You did say that. All right, so I will give that to you then. I had already switched the buzzer over to nay, but I'll give you a yay. And then my final prediction was, they're all saying it kind of counts. No, they're actually split down the middle. He gets it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not half counts. And my last one was impressions of VR will change. This might be something the chat needs to determine as well, because they're the ones who decide whether their impression of VR change. I was already hype about VR. Obviously not hype enough to go spend like thousands of dollars to get in on it, but I was hype about it. But from my personal perspective, it's right. Like, it did like change my perspective on VR. I saw the first like real games for VR there. Saw the first really VR games built around properties that people care about, where just the fact of being in VR in that universe has like a massive impact, like Batman Arkham VR. I talked to a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, I looked down and I had like the utility belt on and like batarangs hanging from my waist, and I was like, oh my god, like, I haven't really heard people talk about VR, at least not the people or the type of people who are talking about this. Like, Pactor's Party is always a good barometer, because everyone just is talking about what they saw for the last couple days or whatever. And last year at Pactor's Party, I don't think anyone brought up VR the whole time. This time at Pactor's Party, it was one of the hot topics of discussion. So, at least industry-wise, and for me personally, I think I got that one. What's your perspective?
I think my perspective on VR changed, just having some experiences with it that kind of showed it. I mean, it didn't show me something that I didn't think was possible before, but it definitely showed me that the companies are thinking more in terms of a valuable and worthwhile experience using the tech than they were when, like, because I was worried it was going to be a bunch of another Kinect games, stuff like that, and I don't feel like that's what I saw.
Or also, the Fallout 4 VR, which ended up being some of the best VR at the show.
So I would say, like, I mean, at the very least, I came out of the show feeling much more positive about, our initial foray into VR over the next like year or so. So I would say you were right.
Resident Evil 7.
For me, you were right.
Resident Evil 7 VR as well was there. And we'll obviously talk about RE7 here in a bit. So I'm going to give myself that one. So that's me at 4.5, and you at 3?
1/2.
Or 3.5.
Wait, 1/2 to 2.5.
2.5?
Yeah, because I missed Mother and missed that, so I got half points for HoloLens, 1 point for Elder Scrolls, 1 point for Star Wars.
Yeah.
2.5.
If only I could win in fantasy, video game fantasy, like I just won that little.
Yeah, well.
You're going to win what matters. This is just a fun little prediction thing.
See you in Bloodborne, son.
Yeah, you shall. All right, it's time to move on with the show proper. The first topic we're going to talk about today is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Ooh.
So,
It's a pretty good subtitle. I'll give him that one.
Yeah.
One of the better subtitles for a while.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely one of the better Zelda subtitles, and maybe ever, actually. Now that if you start thinking about the Zelda subtitles, they've all been kind of wacky.
Yeah.
This one actually, means something to the overall breadth of the game.
I'll say this is probably the best Zelda subtitle since A Link to the Past.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So this game, if you haven't noticed, over the last couple of days, Best of E3 awards are coming out. This game is tending to sweep the Best of E3 awards. Obviously, we're going to get into our awards here shortly. Matt, how do you feel about that?
I think it's amazing what Nintendo can get away with.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. I like the game.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely play it for a very long time. I'm sure it'll be good. I'll buy it with my NX, probably. A Zelda game will get me out there on launch day, I'm sure. But there's nothing in this game that I haven't played 5 to 6 times in other games. And the main furor over this game is the fact that Nintendo is finally using gameplay ideas from this decade.
From the West.
Yes, from the West. There's a lot of survival game stuff in this. There's a lot of open world,
food,
open world
crafting.
circa 2011 stuff in it. But it's if any other company had put this game out, not as Zelda, but as just here are the same mechanics with a different coding, no one would really be paying attention to it.
I think this is the least innovative console Zelda ever.
Wow.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time, obviously. Majora's Mask had the crazy time element that you had to mess with. Wind Waker would be close to second.
Yeah, Wind Waker didn't have a whole lot of, the sailing stuff, but I think
messing with the wind.
The innovations of Wind Waker are also kind of what made it a little tedious near the end.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess went out on a limb in a lot of different ways.
It did. Well, it has the first motion-controlled Zelda, and then
making the wolf thing and the different worlds and stuff. That was a step.
Yep. Skyward Sword had the first Motion Plus controls, the best motion control of the two games for sure. I know it didn't always work amazingly well, but at least it tried something new.
Unless you played Wii Sports Resort.
Right.
But it did try something new with the world and the mythos, and it was probably the only time in the whole series where Link felt like an actual character.
Yeah.
With traits. And
it had the overworld where in the sky, and it at least tried a few new things. But this game is just
it's trying new things. This one's trying new things for Zelda.
For Zelda, right.
But it's there's a lot of moments where I was playing, I was I remember when I did this in Don't Starve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, man.
Or you can just start talking about other action RPGs,
right.
like any Elder Scrolls game ever
also,
from 10 years ago.
Right, and also if you saw the Horizon Zero Dawn demo, there's a lot of the same things happening in that game as in Breath of the Wild, but Horizon Zero Dawn looks a lot better, looks a lot more interesting, and has a way more interesting world.
Oh, it also has real story and cinemas and voice acting and the combat in Horizon, and I'll get into Horizon in a bit, but the combat in Horizon is far deeper, and yeah. I
just feel like this, maybe this take on Zelda should have been Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
This probably should have happened a while ago.
Yeah, Skyward Sword should have been the first action RPG take on Zelda, definitely. But I agree with you. I'm excited to play it. Excited as hell to play it.
I really enjoyed playing it. There's a lot of things, the combat's much more complex. There's a lot more things you can do. All the stuff where you can use the environment, and the thing where I know there's a GIF floating around of it, but it's like, you know, you're fighting the Guardian or whatever, the Guardian thing that like sets something on fire with its laser, and then you can like jump over like off the horse and use the parasail leaf thing to ride the updraft, and then like you jump out and aim the arrow and shoot its weak spot in midair, and like so I'm like, there's a lot of cool stuff.
That's what I really love about it is all the little touches in the game, like the one enemies you fight, like they crumble. Like the skeletons, they crumble, and then like the head will start rolling back to like the body, so the body can reconstruct. And what I notice is like you can knock the head off of one, and then if you destroy the body on that one, the head will actually start rolling towards another body to attach to another body. Like it isn't just linked to its original body. Just little cool stuff like that. Like I found. That's the stuff that I kind of found playing it myself for the 30 minutes versus watching the demos on that Nintendo ran all day.
It felt good. But, I mean, all Nintendo games usually feel good to play.
But here's the other thing I would say. Talk about a downgrade a ton visually.
Yeah.
What happened to, like, all the grass that was in the field of the first, like, footage that they showed of it? Like, it's just this, like, barren wasteland.
I have a feeling that might be back in the NX version.
Maybe.
Here's the thing.
There actually is some grass right there.
Yeah, but I also don't think what they were showing on like the gameplay demos looked quite as good as what's in the trailer.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the trailer was using NX
more powerful hardware
or something, or at least they're cleaning it up or taking it straight from the buffer or something. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of the climbing. Seems really slow. Drags the game down. Like, just give him what's up with the hook shot? Just let me hook shot up to the top of that cliff.
I'm sure that's coming, but at some point, but like, or maybe a grappling hook or something. But like, I don't know. Like, I kind of agree agree with you, but then like this Shadow of the Colossus fan in me is sort of like, oh, I get to climb things. It's like, so I guess it depends on how just like irritatingly prevalent it becomes in general gameplay as you go.
It seems like you do it a lot. Like watching Nintendo play the game, they were climbing constantly. It's like they need like a quick like scramble or something. Like you can do like kind of that leap to gain some extra like verticality, but it's like you should be able to just keep doing it, like Uncharted, where you can just keep jumping and just quickly clamber, and every other action RPG for that matter, like Tomb Raider or whatever, like. Quicker climbing would be really appreciated, but it's kind of being a little bit nitpicky when you talk about some of the other stuff.
It ain't done.
Yeah,
they got a long time to tweak. I'm sure they got a lot of feedback at this, so maybe he'll climb quicker.
Yeah,
in the final.
I like the game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on the game at all. I think it's going to be good. Hopefully, really good.
The nice thing about it, I think, was like as you played it, you kind of hit these moments where you're like, you saw things and you're like, oh, I wonder if I could do, and you generally can.
Yeah.
If you wonder if you can do it, and then there usually is a way to do it. They thought of just about everything, and none of it is particularly, groundbreaking or new, but it's groundbreaking and new for Zelda, which is like, it's cool that Zelda will be that, but it's also it's a little bit a factor of Nintendo playing catch up.
Here's what I wonder. Here's really the big question: if this game was made by Bandai Namco or Tecmo Koei or whatever, and it was this brand new IP, do you think that it would be getting Game of the Year awards?
No, I do not.
I don't either. I don't even think it would be nominated for most awards.
I think it would be like a hidden gem.
Right.
It would be like, hey, you might want to keep your eye on this thing. It's way better than what we thought something out of this company would be like.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Can you believe Japan still makes video games? I think that's what it would be.
I mean, there are were some amazing games at E3 2016, and we're going to talk about them here in a bit. And to me, it's kind of a joke that this game beat some of these games for Game of the Year at these publications. I mean, and some of them are the same exact genre, and you see what that game is doing right next to Zelda, and it's like the difference between like a blaze and like a campfire.
Well, to me, it's like if someone told me that like they think the best movie of 2015 was The Force Awakens. Yeah, it's like I love The Force Awakens. I thought it was great, but really,
yeah. Like, how many movies do you watch?
Like, I get that created these feelings of nostalgia, and it's okay to love Star Wars again. It's like, you love seeing these properties and these characters come back again, and Zelda's the same way like that. But it's like, You really want to hold that up against some of the work being done in film now and say that? I feel the same way about Zelda. It's like you want to take this thing that it does traffic in this brand and this franchise and these characters you love very much, and I do too, but you want to really hold this up and say, like, this is as good as the best work being done elsewhere in this convention? Because I don't think that's true.
I think one thing I've discovered this week is that most journalists deep down inside are Nintendo fans.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know who else would be sprinting for the booth on Thursday morning.
Yeah. Well, those weren't journalists. Those were just industry kids or whatever.
My favorite thing in that video is the guy standing in front of the doorway doing the praise the sun thing.
Yeah.
And making everybody run around him. Like that. I don't know who that was, but you are my hero, sir. That was very funny.
Yeah, it was funny. Again, I really liked it. Would I nominate it in my top 5 for Best of Show? No.
Probably not.
Top 10 Best of Show?
Top 10, yeah. I would put it in top 10.
I don't know.
I think.
It would be like right on the borderline
well, maybe if I counted up 10, I would like, oh, Zelda's actually like 11. You know,
and this is also counting the fact that, I'm a Zelda fan and I like Zelda. But I also am trying to look at things realistically and even-handedly. And there are a lot of good games at E3. I mean, even this game compared to something like Dishonored 2, or Mafia 3 even,
Mafia 3, I think, has been getting a little ignored.
Yeah.
Especially because, that had... Mafia 3 might have had the best booth.
Oh, it had one of the
really
best
good.
booths I have ever seen at E3.
Yeah.
Ever. It literally... I was just in New Orleans not that long ago, so it's very fresh in my mind. I mean, it was literally like being in New Orleans. They had the jazz band, the 4-piece jazz band in there. The outside was built just like every single house in New Orleans. It was amazing.
They had at one point I went through there and they had these little tables, kind of restaurant tables along the sides, and they had psychics, like fortune tellers sitting at them and reading people's palms and stuff.
Way.
And it was just a really complete theming experience. It was great. I was very impressed.
Easily the best booth at the show. Maybe one of the best booths at E3 ever. For just that one corner that was set up for that. I also like the Resident Evil 7 farmhouse.
That was nice too.
It was just a farmhouse just plopped down in the middle of the show floor. It's amazing with a big steel gate around it
and for
really cool
Capcom
stuff.
Usually does a pretty standard corporate booth setup, but they really went all out for that. And I'm still shocked that Resident Evil 7 snuck in like that. It was we had no idea.
We'll talk about that as well. Getting back to Zelda, so do you think it was the right move for Nintendo to just show the overworld stuff?
Apparently it's all they needed to do.
I guess that question answered itself.
I mean, I would have loved to see
every
the
game
rest
of the
it,
show.
But,
yeah. I think personally, when I was watching the demos, I got really bored of it after a while because there's nothing to do, and the world looks very cut and paste. It's you see the same rock formations over and over, the same grass textures over and over, and a lot of the overworld is barren and boring. There was this one stream, they're okay, we're taking you beyond the plateau. And I was oh crap! We were on the master stream, and I was hanging out with all the sifters and whatnot, and we all got excited because we had just watched 3 hours straight of basically the same crap. And then Bill Trinen is in control of the whole thing. He literally runs through miles and miles of terrain that looks exactly the same. I mean, the same hill down, hill up, with the same rock texture on the side of it that he needed to climb. And he just kept going over and over and over. And then he gets to the end and he's see over there? That's it. It was no, dude. We thought you were going there. We don't want to see it. We could see it before. You can see so far in this game all on its own. I don't know. Now that the response has come in and everyone's gushing praise all over the game, I guess they didn't make a mistake. I just wonder, for people like you and I who sort of haven't completely fallen under its spell, if we had seen at least one real dungeon, that if maybe that wouldn't have changed our opinion of it a little bit.
I think it would have helped me.
It definitely would have helped me, without a doubt. So, but it looks like we're in the minority on this. Every other journalist in the world seems to think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Since mowed grass.
There he is, mowing the grass. Never done that before.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't even give you hearts.
Yeah.
I am very interested.
Jump button. There's no automatic jumping anymore.
Yeah. I'm very interested.
If you're going to let him climb like that, I guess you have to take it out.
I'm very interested in the survival aspects of it because, like we talked
all
about,
the food and everything.
yeah, like we talked
food.
about with No Man's Sky and all that stuff. Like, that kind of crafting survival stuff is like a really cool idea, but it's really easy to do it badly and ruin the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I have enough faith in Nintendo's obsessive testing and retesting of things that I figure they're probably not going to screw it up.
Yeah. The game will come out and be polished as crap.
Yeah.
And it'll be to a fine sheen because they've been working on the game for. When it comes out, they will have been working on this game for 5 years or more.
Yeah.
Will they ever be able to sell enough of this game to make it worth all the investment they put into it?
I don't know.
I mean,
it's probably going to be mostly valuable as
Sony's answering that question right now at The Last Guardian as well.
True.
It's like, are we ever going to get our money back on this?
I think it's more. This is going to be more valuable to them as a way to get people to look at the new system.
But it's going to be available for Wii U as well. Like I would agree with you 100% if it was only coming out for NX as a launch game. But when there's 10 million people out there that can buy this game for the old system,
yeah, but those 10 million people are the diehard weirdos, and they're going to jump right to the new system.
Yeah,
the majority of them, I think.
Yeah.
Hell, I think you could have not released it for the Wii U, and those people would all be pissed off, but they'd still buy the new system.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, those 10 million are the hardest of the hardcore.
Like,
Nintendo
you'd have to
fans.
kill someone's family member most of the time to like get them to pass on the new Zelda. I mean, I don't think there's any way you could alienate that audience enough to make them deny themselves that game.
Yeah.
So,
how do you feel about the overworld in this game before we move on?
Because I hope
we saw a ton
of
it.
Yeah, well, it's like I hope there's a lot more variety, a lot more to do. I mean, obviously you don't get to see a lot of it firsthand when you play a quick, 30-minute demo of something. But like, I basically, like, I ran into a couple of little things I could do, a little, moblin camp or whatever, and I just felt like there wasn't enough reward for what I was doing.
It didn't seem like there was much to do in the overworld.
No.
I mean, there's random enemies that just pop up from the ground. And then there's the little camps where there's like 3 or 4 dudes that you need to kill. And
I enjoy like poking around. But
then there's the shrines, like you have to kill the guardian of the shrine first, and you can go in. I think you might be able to get in without it. I can't remember. But those shrines are like little mini puzzle levels where you do a lot of block pushing and stuff like that. And then when you complete it, you get an orb, and then the orb goes into increasing Link's abilities. No female Link, by the way.
Yep.
Any opinion on that?
It was a little disappointing, mainly because like the answers, the reasons they gave make no sense.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you didn't want to do it, just say you
Just
didn't want to do it.
we didn't want to do it.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
Link's the boy. That's
Don't
fine.
make up this whole thing about it. It's just like, oh, we thought if we put her a female Link, then who would Zelda be? And it would ruin the balance of the Triforce. What does that mean? What would Link do if Princess Zelda was the main character? What would Link do? I'm just like, anything he fucking wants.
You get to write the story.
You're writing it, dude.
You can do whatever you want.
The only character trait this guy has is he's brave.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And the only reason that's his character trait is because we're the player and we can fucking go in anything we want because we're not afraid because we're not him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's disappointing that this thing that a lot of people I think were really hoping was going to be an option that we were given didn't exist. And then the other thing is like,
why does Link look like a girl then?
Well,
It's art
there's
design.
not a lot of supercuts out there, so he's just gonna he's gotta go with the au natural look. And then the other thing is like, because it seems like there's voice acting in this game and the voice acting calls him Link. Maybe there's people that I know that are a little put off that like you can't rename him.
Yeah.
So not only did we not get an option that a lot of people were hoping we'd get, we also lost an option we've always had.
Did you ever rename Link though when you
No.
played? I didn't either. I never have.
He's Link.
He's Link, exactly. I would never do that.
And if he was a girl, I'd name her Link too.
Yeah.
Linkle. Don't give me the
Link.
Linkle crap. Link can be
it's not like Link
male or
is a
female. It
male
doesn't
name
matter.
or anything.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm excited for the game. I don't know how excited I'll be for it a year from now.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Imagine all the games that are going to come and go by then.
Yeah.
They might change even more drastically
Yeah.
your impressions
I mean,
of this game.
I think I'll still enjoy poking around this world with him, and especially if the dungeons are on par with some of the better Zelda games, it's gonna
And there are towns. They talked about that there's
Yeah.
towns that you visit, and there's supposed to be NPCs. I didn't really see, other
I
than
didn't
that
see much,
old
but
man.
I'm sure they're not showing us everything by any means. Nintendo's very good about controlling what they want you to see at this time, and then at this time, and then at this time. But I mean, this thing's going to be coming off the back of Horizon Zero Dawn the month before.
Yeah.
Released the month before this, And Horizon Zero Dawn feels like a very similar approach to this idea.
Yeah.
And right now, Horizon Zero Dawn has the edge in my book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So,
we'll talk about that in a bit as well.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how both the landscape of what's released and me changes from now to then.
Yeah.
Especially because when you think about it, this is a game I'm going to probably pay about $500 to play because we're buying a new system.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
And
hopefully it lasts. I mean, I'm guessing it's an open world action RPG. It should last you around 50, 60 hours. I mean, Zelda games generally go about 30 anyway. So
I'm sure there will be incredibly dumb reasons to collect rupees and bugs and whatever.
Well, it's not like you're going to get achievements.
No, but
God forbid.
But I am a completist. So.
Yeah. But it is kind of weird to see a Zelda game be a Me Too game.
Yeah.
It really is odd. Because it's
yet,
always been like a trailblazer.
Like, on one hand, like it's also the other hand, it's also kind of what I wanted.
Yeah.
Because like I didn't, like I've said before, I'm like, don't just give us the open world. Don't make me have to go through some gimmick. Maybe.
Yeah.
And they didn't really. I mean, they took a lot of stuff that has worked in other games and sort of threw it all in the pot, and we'll see if what comes out is what we want.
It had to do it eventually. It couldn't stay with that rigid structure that it had before. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, truth be told, you look at a game like Ocarina of Time, and I mean, it kind of was the first open world action RPG, if you think about it. The RPG elements were crazy light, but I mean, when you could ride Epona around Hyrule.
It was the closest thing you got to an open world
back then. Yeah. I mean, that was 98.
And it was just about as empty.
It was, definitely. All right, we should move on. We have a ton to get to in today's show. The last topic before we start getting to our awards, we're going to do 2 up and 2 down for E3 2016. For those of you who have never seen this segment before, basically Matt and I both picked 2 games that we thought rose from the press event, and 2 games where our hype level went down because of it showing at the press event. So, Matt, what is your first? We're going to do 2 ups first, and then we'll do 2 downs. What's your first up?
My first up is For Honor.
For Honor.
I was looking forward to this game anyway because I like the idea of these medieval or whatever era combat, fighting against each other. You got Vikings versus samurai versus knights, and the guy making it seems to really believe in it. It's like a 14-year passion project for the guy. So and I love hack and slash, like hand-to-hand combat stuff, especially if it's done well. And so I was hoping it would have. It'd be kind of like Dynasty Warriors, but like with some level of complexity to make it interesting, because not just like the brainless hack through a giant crowd thing.
Yeah.
And I found I didn't play multiplayer last year.
Yeah.
But I did get to play the single player stuff behind closed doors this year, and I basically loved it.
Wow.
And I'm also really good at it. But it's like
that might have something to do with
But
it.
as a fighting game person, like there's a lot of fast reaction stuff. There's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of optional ways to handle situations. There's a lot of stuff going on here under the hood that I wonder if it's going to be a little too complex in some ways for like the general audience, because I was using a lot of my three frame reaction time stuff on some of the harder fights in that demo.
Yeah.
And even the guys giving the demo were like, wow, that's like they told me a couple of control tricks that they said they don't normally tell people to do the demo. Like, try doing this and this, and I'm like, oh, and so I learned how to parry, and I learned how to do the counter stuff.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff in there, and it's really cool.
Yeah, the combat's pretty deep in that game.
So I was into that, and I was worried. I know I said when we watched the press conference that I was worried that it looked kind of weightless. Like the combat looked like he was just sort of sweeping through the cannon fodder soldiers or with that. But when you actually play it, the sound design really makes those hits matter.
For sure, yeah.
And there's a little bit of vibration in the controller too, so it did not feel like that. Like when I actually had my hands on it, it was very satisfying. So I gave For Honor a big thumbs up, especially because again, it's a take on that sort of thing. Very accurate to quote unquote real medieval sword fighting, or I know they've reconstructed real medieval sword fighting techniques from scrolls they found or whatever, which sounds a little that's some Indiana Jones archaeology shit, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can do in this game, and I also like you can pick male and female characters for I think every certain characters in the game are set engender because they are characters in the story.
Right.
But other characters you can pick whatever, and it makes no difference except basically the voice. And I think the knight I picked that was a woman had like a little braided ponytail coming out the back, and that was it. So I really enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I was already interested, but now I'm in.
Okay, my first up is Titanfall 2. I played the original Titanfall probably less than a month. I loved it the first, 3 or 4 days that I played it. And then my enjoyment of it just gradually started to diminish until I felt like I played the last 2 weeks just because I knew somebody who was working on the game, and I was like, maybe I need to plumb the depths of this to understand it. And no, I just felt like the mechanics and the way it was balanced, I just lost interest in it in a very short period of time. Obviously, the first one didn't have a campaign. So, cue Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2, I feel like, one, the campaign looks awesome. I like how it's going to build some lore around these things, because all we really got before was this weird little setup and some light voice acting during missions and during kind of your training to kind of set the stage. But I like the fact that the campaign in Titanfall 2 is still doing callbacks to that limited sort of narrative that we got in the first one. There's some characters in there. There's some hidden information in, even in that debut teaser that related back to the first game. So it looks like, the lore that they established is limited as it was in the first game. Is still being utilized going further into the franchise. But I think most importantly, what I really love about Titanfall 2 is how they didn't just rest on their laurels. Because, they were kind of the pioneers of this new age of traversal and first-person shooters with the wall running and the ability to jump like crazy and just, quite honestly, the mech combat. But the new, grapple hook stuff that they've given you, the new traversal mechanics that they've given you, the way you can combine it all together, some of the power-ups that they've shown, ones that'll freeze enemies and kind of freeze them to walls. I was just really, really impressed with both the campaign and the multiplayer. And before E3, my interest in the game was pretty low. Because I kind of played the first one, and I was like, if I just get more of what I got in the first with a campaign that's kind of corny, because that's kind of what I guess would happen if we get a corny campaign. I should have known better, though, knowing the people working at Respawn, that they crafted some of the best ever Call of Duty campaigns. So yeah, Titanfall 2 for me went way, way up on my hype meter thanks to its E3 showing.
I think for me the grappling hook really put that one over the top. Just that one multiplayer trailer, which I think they should have shown instead of the single player trailer.
I agree, yeah.
Instantly you just see the possibilities falling into line as you think about how it's going to change the multiplayer.
Yeah. Okay, and your second up is?
My second up is Gears of War 4.
I agree with that one.
I didn't expect to be an up, but I saw clearly the demo they showed was better at the press conference.
Oh, yeah.
And then the demo they showed in Behind Closed Doors was a different part of the campaign. Really had a little more character to who you're playing as. You get to see showed a lot more about what these things you're fighting are and what they might. It looks like they might be some kind of resurrection of the Locust, and you're starting to see some tie-ins. You're starting to see how they're piecing it together, but it looks like the campaign might also be kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
And so after I watched that demo, I felt like I wanted to know more. And that's the first time I've wanted to know more about a Gears of War story in a very long time.
Since probably Gears 2.
So yeah, frankly. And the other thing that helped, and this is just a presentational thing, the TV they did that demo on was amazing. I know there's a tech nerd thing,
yeah.
but it was a 95-inch Ultra HD 4K television. It's a $40,000 TV.
Woo!
And it was
cow.
watching a painting move.
Wow.
I think it was a Windows version they were playing, but the resolution was stunning. It was just almost like nothing else on the floor. Not quite.
Yeah.
But it looked really good. There's a lot of stuff that's happening that doesn't feel like it's necessarily repetitious. The wind mechanics are really cool.
See, that's what I like. I like that they're actually trying something different with this one. We've never seen anything like that in a Gears game where they have the elements playing into the gameplay.
clearly a Gears game, but it's also not just sitting there and being like, here's more.
Yeah.
Here's more of what you've already done.
Yeah.
They're really trying to switch
pretty.
it up.
I mean, it's one of the best-looking games at the show. And that's an Xbox One game, mind you.
Yeah.
Probably running at 900p. Like, it doesn't matter. It looks amazing.
Can't tell from here.
Yeah. I mean, it's, at a certain point, a lot of it just comes down to work. Like, who has the budget and the time to do the work to make the most out of the hardware that they're working on? And obviously, the Coalition has had plenty of time to make this game look absolutely sick. And it has succeeded. I agree with you. My Gears went way, way up for me based upon its E3 showing. So I'm definitely with you on that one. My second one up is another first-person shooter, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I haven't really played Call of Duty the last couple entries all that much. Even, sadly, like Black Ops 3, I hardly played it all online. And I think I played Black Ops 2 online for like 6 or 8 months. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I played it that long. But first Ghosts was like, then it was Advanced Warfare. That one I actually did play a good bit. I probably played that one like 2 or 3 months after it came out. I was still playing it because the traversal was so brand new and so over the top. But with Black Ops 3, like, I felt like it took a step back. And the series was kind of on this upward trajectory. They had finally kind of turned the script on it and done something new with it. And then Black Ops 3, I felt like, was a step back. And I understand Black Ops 3 sold better than Advanced Warfare. That doesn't mean I enjoyed it more. I had problems getting through the whole campaign in Black Ops 3. It just kind of turned into noise for me. And to be honest, there just wasn't a lot of interesting elements in it. It was just kind of the same thing, like over and over, but with a new setting and a new plot. This demo they showed of Infinite Warfare at E3 is incredible. It goes from you out in space fighting in zero-G, getting inside, fighting in zero-G, having like a zero-G grenade that makes everybody like lose their grip on the ground, and then you get in a ship and you go out in space and you start starfighting. Like,
I mean, this was a Call of Duty game that we didn't realize it was Call of Duty at first.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Like, we were like, what is this game?
I mean, at first I was like, oh yeah, those look like the starfighters from. But it was so like once they got out into space, so like it was like, oh, this seems a little more involved than a Call of Duty would be.
Yeah.
With this. But it looks like there's a lot to. I did not expect to ever have a Call of Duty on my radar again.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
here it is.
Yeah, it was. I was really blown away by it. And kudos to Infinity Ward. I mean, they've been taking a beating over the last couple years over Ghosts. And I mean, I was the one dishing out some of the pummeling. So,
looks like they took it to heart. And they're just
apparently.
It's like, let's come back and blow them all off the map.
I mean, the game looks sick, too. The graphics in this game, man. I mean, it's the best-looking Call of Duty ever by a pretty wide margin. Like, this was one of the games on the hot list for me for, like, best graphics of E3. Like, it just looks absolutely stunning. And then the work with all the gravity and everything, like, I just feel like it's finally going to switch things up so that the campaign doesn't turn into this grind of, like, go into an area, kill out wave after wave of enemies, run to the next checkpoint, watch a cutscene. Go to the next area, wipe out wave after wave of enemies, rinse and repeat. I feel like there's actually going to be some beats and some peaks and valleys to this game, and I feel like I haven't got that from the series for a while. So that game skyrocketed up my hype meter thanks to its showing at E3 2016. Now it's time to get to the two down. Games that we may have been excited for before the show, but after they were shown, we were less enthusiastic about them. Matt, what's your first pick?
The first one is probably not surprising, but Final Fantasy 15, which, look, I wasn't like super enthusiastic about this game to begin with, but this game's, every time they showed it at these press conferences at E3 this year, it was just a disaster.
This demo in particular at the Microsoft press conference.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know what was going wrong. All I know is that if
just look at it. It looks so janky.
At least half the footage of this character, this E3, was him getting his ass beat. And I don't think that was intentional. I think this wasn't working.
There was no setup for this demo either.
I don't know what they're doing, why they're here, who he is.
There was no establishing shot of the enemy to say, okay, here's this gigantic guy. Like, it just starts, and, like, you're looking up at, like, this big fist. And you're just like, what the... Like...
And then
Final Fantasy 15's last chance to make a great impression on people. And I came away wondering if I even want to play it. Like,
and then the stuff in the Sony conference with the weird VR first-person
which I played
game,
was absolutely terrible.
And like, I don't know where this game is, I don't know what this whole Final Fantasy 15 situation is, what it's doing, where it came from, why it took them 11 years. Just get it out, get it over with, and get Kingdom Hearts 3 out here.
I honestly think they need to delay it again.
I don't think this is going to get any better.
They're never going to delay it, but it needs to be delayed, I think.
Just take the hit.
It's such a huge hit, Matt. 11 years of investment.
Well, another year is not going to do anything any good, I don't think. I think this ship has sailed.
It may have, but man, I'm right there with you on this game. I was really, really disappointed. And honestly, I cannot remember too many times that I've seen this game where I was really all that impressed with it. Like,
no. But it was a kind of hope that, like, at least it would have... Oh, God, that pre-order thing is hilarious looking at this. It's like, hey, don't forget to buy this.
Yeah,
like,
well, this awful thing you're watching right now. You know you want it.
I mean, I was hoping it would be maybe a different take. It would be, there would be something, like, cool in the story or, like, some way to kind of involve me after, I didn't like the Final Fantasy 13 kind of universe all that much, and I was hoping it would be something a little different.
The sci-fi universe, basically.
And, like, it's not. Go, Pokemon, I choose you. I don't know what the hell they're doing now. Like, they're throwing little balls.
None of it makes any sense. And then there's a QuickTime event. How many games have QuickTime events anymore that aren't, like, adventure games?
I don't know, even Gears of War, or God of War didn't really have any QuickTime events.
Yeah, and that was like the progenitor of the QuickTime event.
They're the ones that picked the torch up from Shenmue. And
Just like, RE4 was squeezed
we'll take this.
Yeah. RE4 was squeezed in the middle there with QuickTime events. But those were cool. Like some of the knife fight in RE4 was like awesome.
Kept you on your toes. There were moments in cutscenes like, no, don't sit back. This ain't a cutscene. Press A, press A.
Yeah, I agree with you. This game would have been number 3 for me on this list. So I'm glad I didn't actually pick it because it makes the conversation more interesting now that we have different picks. This one might rankle you a little bit. So my first down is For Honor.
Oh.
One of your ups.
Someone didn't like the long sword.
Yeah. But it does kind of show you how perspectives are different, and how everyone kind of has there are certain things that they look for. I thought this game was something unique. And maybe it still will be. It's hard to judge it just based upon like a 10-minute E3 demo or whatever. But when they finally showed like the campaign, like it looked just like a Dynasty Warriors game to me. Albeit like a Dynasty Warriors game with the best production values you've ever seen in a Dynasty Warriors game. But the gameplay to me just looked like Dynasty Warriors. Just these hordes and hordes of people and lots of hacking and slashing. And I felt like because of that, what I really liked about the game when I saw it at E3 last year and the multiplayer was the one-on-one confrontations and how like deadly they felt and how important they felt and how final they felt. And once they show this and there's like 100 people on screen, it kind of loses that intimacy that really snagged me with this game before. Like I felt like it was like almost like a...
Did you play it?
Yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
You played it this year?
Yeah.
Like, see, I think they have a lot of the good one-on-one stuff where you run it kind of lieutenants or whatever as you go through.
Yeah. But again, that's like Dynasty Warriors.
Somewhat, but like the combat in this is much more involved. Like you
can't just mash a button and win fights in this.
And like once you fight like the boss at the end of the demo, they fight the samurai guy with a 9-foot sword. Like, that fight, I thought, was, like, a really good test of all the ideas they'd thrown at you over the course of the demo. I really dug it. Like, and I was worried it was going to be, like, just, okay, great, Dynasty Warriors, but with, like, more accurate fighting styles. You know, like, no one needs that. And I think I was worried about that, and, like, there is some of that to it when you every once in a while they make
you're seeing it right now. It's just
every once in a while you have to hack your way through a big field full of, like, cannon fodder. But, like... I thought there was a really good build to the 2 levels I played, and it was surprisingly after like you get in these big fights with like this dude, like you get in these big fights with these stronger guys, and like after that, to me, running into another area and just like one-handing like 3 little soldier guys out of the way was really satisfying, and it was like, yeah, don't fuck with me, I just killed your boss's boss. Like
But I mean, I found the game pretty easy too. Like the AI of the enemies, it seemed almost like non-existent. Like they weren't like using the same abilities that I had to like block and parry. They're just like they just stand there and just attack every 5 seconds, and they don't really like try to evade your attacks or I don't know, man. It felt just like a Musou game to me. Just
I can't
hordes
agree with
of
that at
guys.
all.
Like the end boss fight was a little more involved, but even like the lieutenants, like I just whacked like right through them. Like,
well, I think the game's running on easy for the demo.
which makes sense.
But no, I mean, again, it's one of those things I'm gonna have to judge when I actually play the whole game. But
This was one of my big shows from last year's E3. I mean, I was on board with this game, and it's not like I hate it now or anything.
Right.
But like I really liked it at last year's E3, and after playing it, the single player at this year's E3, I was like, yeah, I might just end up sticking to multiplayer mostly whenever I get this game.
well, it feels really good to me, and I'll reserve judgment on whether or not the campaign is Dynasty Warrior Z until we get to play all of it, because we only get to play 2 levels. And the other, this Viking raid on the Samurai Fortress is apparently like a mid-game level. It's later in the game. So I'm interested. So they still haven't talked about like how all these 3 groups of guys end up fighting each other in the same world or whatever, and all. So I'm just kind of hoping this thing hangs together as a campaign and has a good build to it, and you're not doing the same thing over and over again as these hack and slash games can sometimes be.
Yep, and that's my fear. It gets repetitive.
Yeah.
We'll see. But again, it's a 10-minute demo. There's, I'm guessing, a 15 to 20-hour game waiting for us to play when it finally comes out. So we'll see. But yeah, just for me personally, maybe my hype level was too high for it. Maybe that's the problem, that inevitably I was going to be disappointed when I finally got my hands on it.
I mean, I went into it with the feeling of like, oh, I hope I don't hate this kind of thing. So maybe we're coming at it from totally
Perspective's
different
a big
angles.
thing, man, for sure. But that's why we do this topic. That's why it's fun. Okay, what's your next downer?
My next downer happened real fast, and it's God of War.
I am really shocked. When you sent me this, I was like, what?
Because here's the main thing to happen. It's like
I'm interested to hear your perspective.
I like the this shift to the kind of the Tomb Raider format that we talked about before. But when I found out that the kid is like an integral part of the game
He's along
overall,
for the whole game.
I was expecting when I saw that demo, I was like, oh, the kid's gonna get killed by something, and Kratos is gonna go like full Kratos because he lost his family again, and here we go. But no, it sounds like it's basically the God of War of us.
Yeah.
With the kid.
Except it's an action RPG.
Or as someone said on Twitter, God of War helicopter parent. Which I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
So I'm still excited for this game, but like I was a little disappointed when I found out more about it. And that was I was hoping it would be a little more. I don't know. I don't care about the father-son thing so much. As much as I enjoyed this scene where he like helps the kid kill the elk, and I'm just like, wow, look at that quiet moment from a God of War game. Where the hell did that come from?
Well, there's also the moment where he's struggling to try to figure out whether to like pat his son on the back, and he stops.
Right.
Like,
and maybe I'll be totally wrong, and this relationship between them will be the best video game character relationship done since Joel and Ellie, and I'm completely off in left field here, but. That, for whatever reason, drained a little bit of my enthusiasm to know that I'm going to have to babysit this damn kid. I mean, at least the kid could put on like the gray makeup or something.
Yeah.
Like, let's get some unity going here, son.
See, I completely disagree. Like, if this game had just been another God of War game, I don't even know if I'd have cared about it, no matter how good
Well, I don't want it
looked.
to be just another God of War game, but I don't like the dual character thing.
I'm totally fine with that because it's going to actually make you care about Kratos for the first time ever. Like. I've never cared about Kratos, ever, because he's just a scumbag. It's like...
Well, now he's voiced by Teal'c from Stargate. So
yeah, I mean, he's just like this loudmouth guy who kills
be even better
everybody.
Performance.
Like, to actually give him, like, some layers of depth, like, I'm excited about the idea of him trying to become human, because he's immortal. And so, like, I read one interview, or watched one interview with Cory Barlog, and he's like... Kratos is immortal. He'll never die. He doesn't really explain how he actually, like, aged and, like, all that, because he does look older in this. And he's like,
presumably we'll find out how he got away from the end of God of War 3 as well.
Right. Well, he also says that, like, this is set after God of War 3, but it isn't, like, 1 month later.
Right.
He's like, it could be, like, hundreds of years later, because he's immortal. And so it's like him... I think it could be great, man. I think you could really dive deep into, like, him trying to become human even though he's immortal. Because you got to figure if you're immortal, your perspective on everything is, like, so screwed up. And, you know, just not even just the story and the setting. Like, I'm fine with, like, protecting the sun the whole time. I'm okay with that. As long as the AI isn't janky and you don't get the weird stuff that happened with, like, The Last of Us, where the enemies don't recognize the child and whatnot. But more importantly, just the whole structure of the game, being an open-world, semi-action RPG, where you're actually, like, leveling things up and improving as the game goes on, other than just getting, like, new weapons, like, it needed this. I think it needed...
Oh, I agree. I just don't like the kid dynamic.
Yeah. It needed everything that's shown off in this demo. This game needed it. It needed more heart. It needed me to care about what was going on in the game, other than just hoping to see it, to disembowel some crazy creature, like... You know, I just feel like they are on the exact right track for this game. I am really excited for it. And, you know, we kind of knew that they were going to show it. At least the rumors were swirling around they were going to show it at E3. And I honestly was not excited to see it at all. And I just love how they debut it. They show the little kid fiddling around in the dirt. And you're like, oh, what's this? Is this like the sequel to The Last Guardian before the Last Guardian comes out? And then Kratos steps into the light, and you're just like, whoa, he's got a crazy beard, and he looks old, and like...
Apparently that's the only part of him that grows hair anymore.
Yeah. You're right.
Unless he's spending most of his days not hunting, shaving the rest of himself.
Right, exactly. So... I don't know. I'm really excited for this. I like this segment, though, that like both of us have like kind of conflicting opinions on different ends of the spectrum.
I'm certainly not saying I'm going to like not play it because of it. I'm just like I both in the sense that I don't really care about the relationship with a kid for the most part. It's a hard sell for me in any fictional medium.
Yeah.
And the fact that Last of Us did it so well that I know I'm going to be constantly comparing it to that game, and I wonder if it's going to hold up.
Well, this isn't a stealth game, which I'm A-okay
no,
with.
that's much preferred for sure.
Just look at the face right there on that troll. Unreal, man. Really good work there. Okay.
Damn kid shoots you in the shoulder, and it's just like,
I mean, that's part of it, right? Is that you're like trying to teach your kid to become a warrior. Like, I like everything about it.
No, kid, press A. Press A. I think it's a PlayStation controller, so it's press square. Press square.
Okay, so my second game that I've lost a little bit of love for after its E3 showing is Watch Dogs 2. And maybe I
didn't know you had any love for
that. In hindsight, maybe I didn't have as much hype for it as I really thought at the beginning. But honestly, like after seeing this game at E3, I really have very little interest in playing it. Like, I love San Francisco. I lived there for 5 years. The representation of it in this game is actually just like mind-boggling. Like it looks so freaking. I mean, that one shot right there.
The shot of California Street is
insane.
It is
like photorealistic. Yeah. Like it is really crazy. And like all these little shots of SF, it's like that's what it was like to live
San Francisco.
there.
That's the hate.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
there.
there's a dude with the shopping cart like that smells. You can smell him 50 feet away. Like. They nail San Francisco, but it's just like, I don't like the tone. I mentioned this before when we saw the debut trailer. I don't like this whole like elite hacksaw like aesthetic that it's got going on. I still like it better than the drab and dull like first game.
Right.
But I still just think it's kind of corny and far-fetched. It's like, these people are supposed to be hackers, but they go out in public with like the name of their hacking group on their clothes. It's like, hello? Like, I just feel like
very Assassin's Creed in that regard.
It's an over.
Everybody's got the secret assassin cult has a uniform.
Right. Yeah. It's just I feel like it's a complete overcorrection from the first Watch Dogs, which was way too boring and dull. This one, on the other hand, it just seems completely like over the top and like wacky. Like,
yeah, I don't know what to make of. I mean, I'm wondering. You can't always judge these things by how they decide to present them marketing wise. It did not demo well at all. I don't think.
It was just boring. Like, nobody even clapped when the demo was done at their press conference. It was just like crickets. Like,
and some of those people are paid to clap.
Yeah, I know. And it was crickets here with you and I, too. We were just like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, like, Watch Dogs.
There was just nothing exciting or unique about it.
Hope you like drones.
Yeah, like...
Hope you can't see drones.
I mean, there was a
peripheral vision problems.
Kind of cool gadgets that they showed off, like those little, like, two-wheeled, like, drones that roll on the ground, like, would, like, shock people, but, like...
I feel like if I was in the situation where I'm playing the game and I put points into the character and kind of developed him and I have sort of, like, I kind of have a context for how the mission has been developing, like I'd be more interested.
Yeah.
I just don't think that game is so much about sort of like infiltration and observation, and then sort of like it's not really like everything goes crazy and it's super action packed. You're not going to have the motorcycle chase from Uncharted 4 in this thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's not a very interesting demo in the context of like an E3 press conference. I still think I'll probably play it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely play it.
But like,
it's going to be one of the biggest games of Q4.
But you ain't wrong on any of it. I mean, yeah, they did the game no favors. Like I will be interested in playing it. Pretty much just because I still think the concept of that series has a lot of potential. And and the first one didn't realize it, and I'm hoping this one does, but I'm keeping the expectations in check.
I'll be interested to see the sales of this game as well. Like,
yeah, because the first one
sold
really well.
Right, it sold through the roof, but I also feel like a lot of people who bought the first one probably feel a little bit burned.
They probably learned, yeah.
And so, after that showing at E3, which is when most people will check out video games for one time out of the year, they're like, Watch Dogs, I'll watch that.
Or even if they decide, if they're more casual and they don't follow E3, but, they start to see commercials for Watch Dogs and they tap Watch Dogs into YouTube, they're probably going to get the E3 demo.
Yeah.
And
for the next 6 months.
Right. And good luck.
Yeah. I don't know. So that's my second down. It's time for our Best of E3 2016 awards. So we have probably a dozen, maybe more. This year we're both going to just pick one game for each category. We might mention like our honorable mentions kind of off the cuff, but we're not going to go in depth about them.
We might talk too much.
Yeah.
Really?
We never do that. So we want to keep it tight. Only if we feel really strongly or we had like a real intense internal struggle trying to decide between two games will we actually go into the details on our runners-up. So the first category for our Best of E3 Awards 2016, Best Debut. Matt, what was your pick for the game that was shown off for the first time at E3 2016?
Insomniac's Spider-Man game.
There you go.
I mean, we talked about how we kind of speculated that Sucker Punch might be making this.
Yeah.
But if Sucker Punch isn't making it, Insomniac should make it. And I talked to a couple of guys who are working on it at Pactor's Party, and they're
we talked to them for quite a while.
Super excited about it. They're super happy they can finally tell people about it.
Yeah.
And it's their own take on it. It has nothing to do with the movies. They are not beholden to the movies or the release dates of anything. They have the time and they have the freedom to make it what they want it to be and make it right. And I think they're just going to nail it.
I think the pedigree is certainly there. I mean, you look at the games that they've made Ratchet and Clank, which is just straight-up platformers with some shooting action, and then Sunset Overdrive, which, if you kind of, like, meld those two games together, right in the middle there's kind of Spider-Man, isn't it?
You can see it.
Yeah.
You can definitely see it.
Also, this whole trailer is in-engine real-time gameplay, just cut together. This isn't a CG thing where they orchestrated the whole thing and choreographed all the fights. Like, this is all in-engine. This is what the game actually looks like. This is the type of stuff that Spider-Man is actually going to be doing in the game. So, some pretty impressive stuff.
Yep.
And you're a big comic guy. It probably added a little incentive on top for you.
Oh, yeah. I always like to see a good superhero game, especially since the only good superhero games for a while were the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man is a harder one to get right because he moves in so many different directions. We've had a few good ones. We've had, a lot of people love the trend, the traversal in Spider-Man 2, which is kind of the gold standard of web slinging. The rest of that game was terrible, but like the actual web swinging was great. And then I think the best Spider-Man game ever made was Web of Shadows. By Shaba Games.
I think a lot of people argue it's Spider-Man 2, but
Spider-Man 2 was not a good game, though. It just had good web swinging.
Yeah.
Web of Shadows simplified the web swinging, but it was still freeform and physics-based enough that you could get kind of the same result out of it, but it was a more interesting game.
I love the combat
yes.
in Web of Shadows.
Way better combat, yeah.
For sure. Yeah,
a lot of really mid-air stuff, a lot, and so
crazy stuff you could do in that game.
And the trailer for this looks like they're going like that times 10.
You're right.
So,
yeah.
And Insomniac can make it feel really good, I think.
Yep, I agree. I think it's a perfect developer. Like you said, if it wasn't Sucker Punch, Insomniac.
And I bet Sucker Punch is, if they need Sucker Punch's expertise, I'm sure they've worked together before. I'm sure they'll be there.
It was funny when we mentioned to the guys at Insomniac that we thought Sucker Punch was going to make it. And they kind of looked at us like, why? Like, what's wrong with us? Like, aren't we good enough? I was also surprised about some of the stuff they told us about the game.
I didn't
They didn't even tell us this is off the record. Although anything that people tell me at Packers Party, I never repeat it. But
I didn't think Insomniac would want to work on a license like that. I figured they were very dedicated to their original ideas and new IPs.
They're big fans of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
big
clearly.
Fans. Yeah, I mean you could just see the passion when they were talking about it. So yeah, I think that's a great pick. My pick is probably less surprising. Resident Evil 7. Mm-hmm. We had kind of had an inkling that it might be at E3. I don't think anybody thought we would get what we got, though, when we finally saw it. One thing we should mention is that the stuff that was shown at E3 and the stuff that's in the demo that you can play right now, by the way, if you're a PlayStation Plus member, you can go download the demo that you're seeing right now, is not going to be in the final game. In fact,
shades of PT.
Capcom has said, in fact, that none of the characters, nothing from this is actually going to be in Resident Evil 7. They said that it's an example of the tone they're going after with the game. So eat it up while you can. I don't know if they're going to take this down and if it's going to turn into another PT where you can't download it again.
I would jump on this. I would jump on this right now.
Yeah, frankly. I would. Yeah, in fact, I wouldn't even wait until the end of the weekend before downloading this because who knows? It could just go away and it could be like PT and you never get it again. So that's the first thing I would say. But the second thing I would say is, wow, it's in VR. It's a VR game, 100% VR. It could end up being absolutely terrifying. So scary that you may not want to play it. Scary. This, from what I can tell, this whole elaborate demo was based off the kitchen demo. And I've mentioned the kitchen demo on the show before, and it was absolutely terrifying. And all that was you just sitting in a chair, tied to a chair, in a kitchen with a serial killer, stalking back and forth, basically. And you're sitting there how is he going to freaking kill me? So for a whole Resident Evil game to have this setting and have you in the world, I don't know if I can think of anything scarier. And to see what the world is and the tone that they're going for, and it seems to be losing all the camp, all the action elements. The whole game is in first person. They did say that. Resident Evil 7 is a first person game. Just the whole thing of not seeing your character is really crazy, man. For a property and an IP that's as established as this, to not show Leon or whoever on screen. I mean, is there even going to be
Chris Redfield?
Yeah, I mean, is there even going to be stars in in this?
Chris is our old partner, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Resident Evil without the camp is a really strange concept.
It is a strange concept.
And even when they've gotten pretty serious about Resident Evil 4 was probably the closest they got to dropping. The ridiculous B-movie, but it still had a lot of stuff like that, and Leon was still kind of a doof. But
yeah. But I'm really excited for this game. More excited than I thought I would be for Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, for sure.
I
haven't cared about a Resident Evil game for a very long time.
I mean, probably they should have been one of my two up, to be honest with you, because after the last couple of games, which I still enjoyed them, I just never expected it to, because they had said the last two games was going to be something like this, where it went back to more of the stark horror and less action. But it looks like finally they're actually living up to their word here, and I'm pretty excited for it. So that's my pick for best debut. Next category, best graphics, a category that we both agree on. There aren't many of these. Do you want to say it together?
Sure.
God of War. Yeah.
It's not a contest.
There's really no debate there. Yeah, God of War was the best looking game at E3 2016 on any platform.
There's moments in that demo, when he's fighting the troll thing, where you're just I can't believe this is real time.
I know.
This is happening
it really
in front
blows
of us.
my mind, man.
It's crazy.
Think back to the N64 and PlayStation era, and to see something like this. I mean, it's like a CG movie almost.
Yeah.
It is really unreal, and the crazy part of these really start paying attention to some of the details. I don't know if you got to see the behind closed door demo of this, but every time you hack an enemy, it leaves a permanent gash in the enemy. Detailed gore has always been kind of a thing that God of War did. And, the last game, it had little disembowels in the actual intestines would fall out of the enemies or whatever. This game takes it up to 6, man. They made a point. They'd slash once, they'd be look at the enemy. and you look, and exactly where you slashed him, there was like a huge gash, like bleeding, like the detail, the fur shape, just everything about it, the lighting, the particles, the animation in the face. Look at the animation in Troll's face, man. Like you can't even see it half. Look at his face when he hits the ground, and it like.
Well, look at the deformation on the skin where he's grabbing.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
It's like detail you would never notice, but your brain did.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So this is like an open world like game. This isn't like a section by section God of War game. And so, if this is the type of detail that they're going to have in an open world game that isn't as controlled as, say, like an Uncharted 4, I mean. There you see the blood all over it. Like, it's stunning. Stunning. And, well-deserving of best graphics of E3 2016. This isn't fake. This isn't a pre-rendered CG sequence. This is the game. Like, I saw it play with my own eyes and watched the developers mess around with it. In all honesty, like, flaunting the game's visuals. So, I mean, just see all the particles drifting down. Like, it's gorgeous. This game might be worth playing just for the visuals.
Yeah.
Seriously, like it looks that good.
You gotta wonder what Neo mode's gonna look like on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I don't think it's gonna be like Skyrim or anything, where it's just like go anywhere, blah blah blah. I think it's gonna be more like a Tomb Raider,
right?
Where you have like a lot of leeway.
But I'm saying on the Neo, you'll probably have this at 60 frames.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think they did say it was running at 30 frames for E3. Even just the detail on his weapons, like seeing Kratos in that fidelity is pretty freaking mind-blowing, man.
And also that big. We're not used to seeing that character that close up. That usually it's kind of an aerial camera for most of those games.
Yeah, an isometric camera almost. But in the animation of like the elk and it just everything about it just looks absolutely amazing. So that elk dies pretty easy. I think one little arrow is going to make an elk topple like that, but. Regardless of what you think about the gameplay and the changes to it, I don't think there's any denying it's just one absolutely gorgeous game.
It's easily. Gears of War 4 is also really good looking, but it's just didn't hit me like that one did.
Oh, this game technically destroys Gears of War 4. But both games look great. You're splitting hairs at this point when you're talking about games like that.
Pretty much.
All right, let's move on to our next one. Best first-person shooter. Matt, what's your pick?
I got to pick Titanfall 2.
There you go.
I mean, Infinite Warfare definitely has my attention now because of the theme and the variety that we're seeing. But I kind of I'm a little skeptical in the sense of I expect things like that in a Call of Duty game to be very scripted, very on rails. So we'll see. I might be wrong, I might be totally wrong, but I don't know yet. Titanfall 2, that multiplayer trailer, you see all the different things you can do. Yeah. You see the grappling hook. You see the jetpack stuff. You see how that all works together, and you're like, man, this game has so much potential in how it's all going to come together in a giant, crazy multiplayer match. And the fact is the campaign is great because I want to know more about that world. Yeah. So, Titanfall 2 has got to take the top slot for the first-person shooters for me.
Yep, my pick is Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. My favorite first-person shooter of E3 2016. Game looks stunning. I know the multiplayer is going to be good. I mean, even in Ghosts, I enjoyed the multiplayer, even though I thought the campaign was completely throwaway.
I hope you can dogfight.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if they let you dogfight in multiplayer.
So would I, but I'd be happy.
But you never know. I mean, this game already flipped the script so much from what you thought of a Call of Duty game. Maybe they are going there.
Hell, if you go to the trouble to make all that happen, I would show it off. Do it.
Yeah, I mean,
even if it's just as simple as Fighter Squadron and Battlefront, let people do it.
I've never seen a Call of Duty map that big though to facilitate something like that. I don't mean like you can get in the plane and take off, and while people shoot on the ground, you can fly around and fight. I mean like there's maybe a mode where you can just dogfight each other. Oh, gotcha. Separate from
totally separate from the normal multiplayer. It'd just be like a separate fun.
That sounds like a great idea. And here's the other thing about Call of Duty games is they are the type of games that would throw something like that in. Yeah. Because those games are those discs are packed to the gills with content. Especially the Treyarch games where they have these little arcade games you can play.
The zombie thing is almost its own game all by itself.
They've already said there is zombies in this as well. Zombies in space! But the game looks amazing. I don't know this engine. I don't know if Infinity Ward built a brand new engine for this game, but man, does it look amazing. The campaign looks great. Multiplayer is still the X factor, obviously. But
I would also consider playing this in VR.
Oh yeah,
just saying.
But imagine like 0G multiplayer.
Yeah.
If they had some maps like in space where like you have to navigate and use like a grapple or whatever to like, because there's grappling in this as well, just like with Titanfall. Imagine if that becomes part of the gameplay mechanic in multiplayer, where you're actually grappling around like 0G like environments or whatever. So, from what is shown, I love it. From what could be, I love it. Knowing that the multiplayer is going to be great, as it always is. Infinite Warfare is my pick for best first-person shooter of E3 2016. All right, let's move on. Best indie game, Matt.
My pick for best indie game, it would have to be Abzu.
Abzu. Now, were you a fan of Journey?
I was.
Okay.
And obviously, Giant Squid has a couple of key Journey people working on this. They've got the, I believe it's the art director from Journey as the creative director on Abzu, and they've got the same composer as Journey, which I'm happy about because Journey had great music.
Yep.
I'm a big Echo the Dolphin fan. There's a lot of Echo in this game. It's not as hard. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Echo will kick your ass from here to the other side of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
But so this one's more of an experience. It's not. There's
I don't know if there's even really a goal in the game. I think it's just kind of just go along and see what happens, right?
No, you're supposed to kind of uncover these ruins and sort of like you sort of find these like underwater ruins, and you don't really know who the diver is, and like you start to see kind of clues that like whoever she is, she's part of some kind of like ancient civilization, or there's some drawings that like indicate that whoever the civilization had seen people dressed like her, and you like start to figure out how to you can do these things where it's like Flower, another That Game Company game. You find like these little pools, you activate them, and it like releases new breeds and species of fish into the area, and like you can have 10,000 fish in an area, and like there's like once you like activate this one thing in the demo, like you go to this other like kind of shadow world place, and you activate the thing, and it just spits fish out and all this stuff, and it was this totally barren cavern, and it fills up with like bluer water, and just it fills with 10,000 animals. And like manta rays and schools of fish, and the bigger fish will eat the other fish. Like there's an ecosystem. And if you're riding on a larger fish and it's hungry, it will ignore you and go eat stuff until it's not hungry anymore.
Wow.
And I
did not get to play this at E3, unfortunately. It was on the floor. I just didn't have time, unfortunately. I had to prioritize.
It felt really good. It felt very relaxing. And I did ask them I'm like, how are you putting see, you can see here, like all those fish on there. They're all moving in real time. They're all moving independently. They're all swimming together, and if you swim near them, they'll all scatter in different ways.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you getting 10,000 fish on this thing and not losing performance? Because the frame rate is rock solid the whole time.
Well, because the environments are pretty barren.
No,
really.
That's not it. That's not it. What the way they did it is he said, okay, originally we had fish, and the way we were doing the fish was the fish have a skeleton, and we texture around that, and the skeleton animates, right?
Yeah.
So at some point during development, one of their tech guys figured out he could express the fish as mathematical sine waves. And so every fish in this game is a mathematical equation that corresponds to how that species of fish moves and what it wants to do and what its primary goals are. And it just generates that as a graphical representation. They're not individual like models with skeletons and bodies and stuff and AI and stuff. They're just equations. And that's very inexpensive, so they can just throw 10,000 of them in an area, and it doesn't bog the game down.
Wow. I
thought that was pretty cool.
I liked Journey a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I love the whole atmosphere of it. I like the way you communicated with other players. I love the solitary feeling of it. I love the music. I love the art style. But I didn't love it as much as a lot of people. Like I didn't like Game of the Year love it, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right. Neither did I.
I mean, my other point with Journey was that it was really short. I think I finished it in like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
I think this one is like 4 to 5.
Yeah, I'm getting the same vibe from this game though. Like,
you're not wrong. It feels. You can definitely feel that many of the same people had their hands on this that were involved in making Journey, and I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
And the animation of all the fish is great, and like kind of the mystery of like what this is, and the lighting. Like when you go from like higher up, down, lower, like it's just the lighting switch is perfect. They did a great job to. You
can see it in these trailers that we're showing right now. The light coming through the water, just the way it refracts, and
they described it. See there you can see kind of the ruins with like looks like her, and you're kind of like, oh, what's going on? So that's kind of part of the plot. And they described it as the concept was like not scuba diving, but like the dream of scuba diving, like what you wish you could do as a scuba diver. And I think that comes across. So it was really cool. It's a fun little thing. I think it's a very relaxing game, and it comes out soon. It's like August 2nd, I think.
Oh wow!
And so this will be a nice. In the last grueling week before No Man's Sky, this will be my my zen.
They needed to release this in the summer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's perfect timing. August. Okay, my pick for best indie game of E3 2016 is the same game I picked for E3 2015. That game is Cuphead. Obviously, been pretty well publicized that it used to be basically a boss rush game. Now they've actually added real platforming levels to the game. I played, I don't know, about 20, 30 minutes of it co-op with someone I didn't know on the E3 show floor. We had a blast. Game is hard as balls.
Looks it.
I mean, even the platforming levels, I think, are even more difficult than the boss fights, to be honest with you. But the animation in this game is so incredible. Everything. When you die, you turn into these ghosts that, swim, up the screen. It's just... I love how they put, a lot of times you see footage, and, you're looking at this footage right now, oh, it looks a little blurry. When you see this on, an HD TV, you realize it's all intentional. They have put these crazy filters over top of the game, and they're not, it's not a loop. So it's not like you see this line, and if you watch that spot on the TV long enough, you'll see the line again. It's completely random, but it's, legit. It's, I've never seen a game that looks like this.
It's definitely one of the most, useful, or I would say appropriate uses of chromatic aberration I've ever seen to simulate that sort of aging film look.
You've seen Kingdom Hearts kind of try to do stuff like this. It has its black and white levels where they throw a little...
If you showed me footage of this and you told me it was a lost cartoon from 1933, I would believe you.
Oh, totally. I mean, they just nail it. I don't know. I hate giving the same game, the same award 2 years in a row, but to me this game is so superior to any other indie game that I played there. The only other game that I really played, the couple actually, that really struck my fancy were Bound. That game kind of struck me the same way that Abzu did for you, the art style. I don't know if you've seen Bound or not.
Yeah, I did. It was kind of expect my girlfriend, who has a ballet background, to like that one more than I do.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can definitely see what you mean there.
And then Below, which I'm surprised that you didn't pick.
I did play Below, but that game doesn't demo well.
Yeah,
at
it's
a
not
big, crowded, loud
show
floor. And I played it, and I did kind of feel when I get to finally sit down and dig into this game, I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
But I just you did a thing, you wonder, you stepped on the wrong plate, got killed, you respawned back at the boat, which took me 10 minutes to walk to where I was before, and now I don't have my lantern. And it's just as a Dark Souls fan, I think there's a lot to like in there. I see the pedigree for that, but it does not demo well when you're you have to get to an appointment in 15 minutes and you just want to stop by and get a taste of this game, and it's just not really.
No, that's a game where you turn off the lights, put on the headphones, or crank up the surround sound, and just get absorbed into the game. And at E3, that's the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
It's the other side of the spectrum from that setting.
I mean, no disrespect whatsoever to Below. I think it's going to be good, but it just wasn't the thing that. And it'll probably also help that I played Abzu in a meeting room area, not on the floor.
Yeah, and I was surprised they had to Abzu out on the floor actually, but it was out. I think there was 2 kiosks out there.
Yeah, it was out in the front, kind of where you first enter the West Hall, and I was it took me a while to figure because they were giving out cardboard helmets of the character.
Oh, really?
From the character. And at first I thought it was a really abstract Pac-Man head.
Yeah.
People were what's the Pac-Man thing? I don't get it. And finally I figured out it's the Abzu thing. So okay.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying about really hard games, comparing the Dark Souls or Demon Souls or Bloodborne or whatever. The one thing about Cuphead that's awesome is that it's really challenging and really hard, but the controls are just butter. I never felt screwed over by the game, which I cannot say about the time I spent with Bloodborne. I felt times that I died because the camera was screwy, or it took me a while to learn the reaction time or whatever to how long of a delay there was from pressing a button and whacking. The shooting and the platforming in this is just so responsive. there's no excuse other than you suck when you die in Cuphead. And I'm okay with hard games that are like that. That's why I'm okay with games like Ninja Gaiden. Like, if I ever died in Ninja Gaiden, I'm like, I just didn't land my flying swallow, or whatever. Like, that's how I feel about.
But it was usually the flying swallow.
Yeah. But that's how I feel about Cuphead. Like, the controls are just perfect. Like,
well, it has to be.
Yeah.
For that kind of game, that's where it lives or dies.
But there's tons of platformers, side-scrolling platformers that don't have that.
Yeah.
Super Meat Boy has it, and that's also a really challenging game. But there are hundreds and hundreds of indie platformers where the controls feel mushy and the physics don't feel right as far as when you jump and your character lands, how much does he slide before he's able to do something else? Everything just feels great. That carries through in the platforming levels as well, not just in the boss fights. Right. So.
One of my other runner-ups might have been Bloodstained as well.
Yeah, I was shocked by Bloodstained.
Yeah.
Because we saw,
looks so much better than the last stuff they put out for it.
Iga put out that gameplay, literally the week before E3, and it was nothing.
No.
It was just the character running through empty environments, and I walk up to the game on the show floor, and it's a full level.
Yeah.
With full enemies, everything. All the procedural stuff going on. I was like, where the hell did this come from? Why did he show that crappy demo last week? When he had this, he could have shown us. It's really bizarre.
Who knows?
But yeah, I'd agree. Bloodstained probably should have been one of my one-ups.
Yeah.
Only because of the footage I saw the week before, I'm like, this game isn't coming out for 5 years. And after what I saw at E3, I'm like, okay.
No, they got a foundation there.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. The animation's
really nice.
Amazing. The fighting feels great. It's Castlevania.
Yeah.
It's what it is. You're probably not going to get it from Konami, but Iga's going to give it to you with Bloodstained. So, yeah, that's another one. Glad you mentioned that to keep it on people's radar. Next one, best RPG, and this can be turn-based RPG, action RPG, anything with role-playing elements. So, Matt, what did you pick?
It's a very broad category, but in terms of the stuff I saw that really kind of made me go out of the room with a smile on my face, I would have to pick South Park: The Fractured Butthole.
Now, so you got to pause between butt and hole.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh every time I hear the title.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the. I'm not going to lie. There's a little bit of why I picked it in there, just so I could say it and you'd laugh at it.
You're not alone, by the way. This game has been it's been nominated by pretty much every website. And I haven't best art. Some people are giving it nominees for best of show.
I saw some of those. I don't know if I agree with that, but
yeah.
I haven't watched South Park for a long, long time. I have for whatever reason accidentally caught the episodes, the Coon and Friends episodes.
Because they rerun them a lot. Yeah.
But I've watched South Park regularly for 15 years.
Really?
I catch episodes once in a while, but I'm not a South Park devotee or anything. But
I'm waiting for the Donald Trump episode.
Oh, it's
that's
coming.
Going to be comedy gold.
But I love what they're doing here. As a big Marvel movie fan, I think the way they're mocking and lampooning it is spot on. The tone is perfect.
Yeah.
The whole the reason the fact that the conflict is entirely about their ridiculous three-phase plan.
Yeah.
And all that is great, and people and the different characters. The kids are arguing over who gets to be in a movie versus who gets to be in a Netflix show versus who gets to be in a movie first. And then the whole argument, they have all these arguments about it doesn't make any sense for Super Craig to not appear before Tupperman, and it's just none of it. It's just as arbitrary as what it is in the actual movies. It's great.
It really just shows how stupid and petty some of the stuff is in these movies.
And
definitely took Marvel to task. Mm-hmm. In his presentation at E3.
And the funny thing is, there are tons of superhero archetypes in this game, and you can pick from a whole bunch of them. They only showed 3 of them in this, but you can see the selection line was all the way across the screen basically, and the way the combat works is it was good in Stick of Truth. I thought there was a solid turn-based RPG. Now you can move the characters around, and placement matters. There's actually, I was slightly reminded of kind of the Valkyrie Chronicles combat system. And you can knock people into each other. You can, the environment matters. They're really expanding.
It's a lot more. It's actually almost kind of straying towards a strategy RPG.
Yeah,
It's kind of got that grid that gives you the opportunity to kind of alter your attacks and play off of other characters, and a pretty big step up from the first game.
So I liked it a lot. I thought it was the demo and the in closed doors demo was basically the same, but with a little more detail. But it was all very funny. And the combat looks like they're really stepping it up, and they're not afraid to change it up. And it's a very timely subject matter. So, yeah, I thought it was great.
You probably wondered who a couple of the characters were if you haven't watched South Park for a while.
I knew most of them. Like, I know Timmy, and that was actually one of my favorite moments in the Behind Closed Doors demo, is that Timmy is Professor X.
Oh, really?
He's in a
that
suit.
Makes sense.
And every time he talks to everyone, like in Psychic, he is like perfectly, like his diction is flawless, and he has like a minor like Harvard accent.
No way.
He's like, Eric, I'm speaking to you inside your mind now.
What?
And then he just
he'd be like, Timmy.
And at the end, he comes out. It's like, damn it, and it's very funny.
You probably didn't know who PC Principal was, did you?
I have actually seen that episode
okay.
because they rerun the good ones so
yeah,
often.
yeah.
I did actually catch that one.
Okay.
I know him. I know Tweak. I know. I don't know if Craig's a recurring person or whatever, but
yeah, he is.
I know most of it. I know Butters.
Of course.
But that's to give you an indication. The last time I watched the show regularly was before Butters was a force on the show.
Yeah, I mean the show's kind of hit or miss now.
Yeah.
Usually, what I would say is like if you see something like come through like your Facebook feed or whatever, something like, hey,
check it out.
Watch that episode.
Sort of like SNL.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like just wait until the internet says, hey, they did a good thing. We can't believe it. And
except with SNL, you just watch the one sketch.
Right, the one skit, right?
But usually, if South Park comes through your feed, you should watch the whole episode. Right. That's the difference. But
no, I'm into it. And again, the superhero content I think makes it like doubly interesting to me because. There's a lot of material to mine there for
sure.
satire and parody.
Oh, yeah. Okay, my pick for Best RPG, Horizon Zero Dawn. Man, I could just gush about this game for hours. The demo that I saw behind closed doors was just like I thought the demo that they showed at the press conference was freaking mind-blowing. Like, the variety of ways that you have to deal with enemies is I don't know if I've ever seen a game with that much of a breadth of ways to dispatch enemies. But here's the thing. So, in a lot of games, like you figure out a strategy and you can kind of rinse and repeat that strategy throughout like the whole game, like on that enemy. You discover this enemy and you're like, okay, this is how I handle this enemy with this particular weapon and it seems to work great. But with this game, that will never happen because the enemies, like, adapt. So they showed us one fight where you fight this enemy, you knock off, like, a piece of his armor. The enemy picks up the piece of armor and starts holding it in front of him to try to, like, deflect your attacks. Like, and this is, like, an action RPG. Like, typically you get, like, rank-and-file enemies where you learn how to defeat them, and once you do that, you're kind of good to go. Or
I think before this E3, my impression of this game was more of, like, a Far Cry kind of situation.
Yeah. But, no, that's definitely not the case at all. It's, there's lots of crafting and things like that. They showed us a lot of the crafting and the gathering, the hunting and gathering that you have to do. I was just really, really blown away by it, man. I loved it last year. I love it even more this year. I love the setting. I love the characters. I love the tension in the game. I love how the main character that you play as, what is it, Alon? Or
I think it's
Alon
Aloy?
Aloy, yeah, that's right. I love how you're kind of put in this weird position of where you're kind of the middleman between what's going on and the people. I just love everything about this game, man. Mm-hmm. I think it's incredible. I can't believe Guerrilla Games made it, to be honest with you. I don't know how it managed to go from making Killzone, which weren't bad games by any stretch of the imagination, but to go from something like that, which was just kind of like a generic sci-fi shooter, to something like this is completely unique in both setting and in all honesty, like the way it's played. Like the one fight that they showed at the E3 press conference where you're like tethering the enemies down to keep them from moving, and then you can like light them on fire, and then the fire spreads. Like, I'm just loving it, man.
Mm-hmm. Definitely one of my. I'm kind of hitting a point with this game where I kind of don't want to see too much more. Where like I'm in for it. I'm on board. I know I'm going to play it. Like I already pre-ordered the collector's edition.
What do you get with the collector's edition?
A couple of in-game thingies and like some art book stuff, but the main thing comes with a giant statue of her. And I thought
I'd almost rather want a statue of like one of the enemies, though.
Sort of. Well, she's like I think she's kind of standing on one, like, but like I like her design a lot. I think she's a really cool like protagonist design, and the statue. I'm kind of picky about those statues because a lot of times they look cheap, or it's just kind of a boring. They're just standing there or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you go look it up, I really like the pose she's in and kind of this sort of an action-y thing going on. So I decided to jump in just because I think what they're doing here is so good.
But look, this is something else that they showed for the first time, being able to ride the creatures and tame the creatures. Like, this was actually something that they showed behind closed doors at E3 last year. It was like part of the extended demo. They didn't let you ride, but they showed like the taming element of like the wildlife. I don't know if you call that wildlife or not, but
close enough.
Yeah. But also stunning. I mean, just look at that shot right there. Like, man. This game cannot come soon enough for me, Matt. Now I'm like to the point where
it comes in the middle of 15 other things.
I know. Now I'm at the point where I'm really upset that it was delayed. At first I was like, oh, there's plenty of stuff to play. Q4, I'll be good. Like now, like no, I want to play
really
this game
liked
immediately.
This year. Yeah, I mean, do what they need to do to make it what it needs to be and make it good. But I wish we were getting this year.
So people right now, I'm sure I haven't even looked at the chat, but I'm sure people are like, what do you mean no one picked Persona 5?
Persona 5 was my number 2.
Persona 5 was not playable at the show also.
Yeah.
It was like they had
a lot of like presentation stuff around it, but they didn't. There was no kiosks.
They didn't play it either. Like they would.
They were giving away hats was their main thing.
And shoulder bags. Yeah. I actually saw like a brawl for shoulder bags like at E3. It's actually in the tour video. Like you can see it at the very beginning. There's like a brawl for like bags. Just standing there with my GoPro. I'm like, really? You guys are fighting over plastic bags. But Persona 5 was not playable, and generally that's something that needs to happen for a game to win most categories. All they were doing at E3 was they would take you into a room and show you a video of the game and then explain stuff as the video played. So if it's not playable, the only categories we really give awards for that aren't playable is like best trailer or best graphics. Well, actually, even best graphics is a little dicey if it's not being played.
You want to make sure that it's happening in real... Even if you can't play it, you want to see someone move it around and prove that it's not scripted or whatever.
Best debut, probably, you could get away with not being playable.
Well, Spider-Man certainly wasn't playable.
Yeah, but for the most part, games need to be playable, and Persona 5 was not. So don't think we're knocking the game, or we don't like it as much as you, or we're not as hyped for it. It's just kind of the way the rules work out for our Best of E3 awards. So let's move on to... a category we probably have never had before on our Best of E3 awards. First year ever, because the systems just all came out. Best VR game. Might have been an easier choice last year. Not so easy this year,
There was some good stuff out there this year, and stuff I didn't... in places I didn't expect.
Yeah. Everybody had something.
Yeah.
Like, even Bethesda had Fallout 4 VR, which was some of the best. It was also like Vive, which helps.
Well, there were even like things where I would go to appointments for like another game, and they'd be like, "Oh, while you're waiting, would you like to see our VR game?"
Yes.
And like, I'm
yes,
like,
please.
"Sure, let's do it."
Yeah.
I played over at Rebellion. I played Battlezone, which is based on the original Atari tank game,
vector-based tank game.
I mean, if you love the tank stuff in Tron, that's what this game is. And it's like you're just going through kind of this like futuristic, but maybe computeristic. Like landscape, and you're turning the turret and moving around, like you're blowing away these like sort of Tron glowing tank things, and like you have to hit them from the back, and there's less armor, and they start to like kind of bleed like digital blue and stuff. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it's kind of a fun little sort of candy game.
Did you play it on Oculus or on PlayStation VR?
PlayStation VR. And
it's one of the better looking PlayStation VR games.
But I will say, after spending the week using Vive and Oculus and PlayStation VR, like going from like an Oculus or Vive game to a PlayStation VR game, real obvious that the PlayStation VR is a drop off. I mean, just the resolution of the screen
alone,
like you can see. It's a lesser quality screen, and it's not bad. Like I'm not going to say like don't buy a PlayStation VR because you'll never know if you're not going back and forth.
Right.
It looks fine.
Yeah.
But you're getting what you pay for with these headsets.
For sure. And sadly, it's going to probably be the most popular.
Yeah. So was the Atari 2600.
So was the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So was the PlayStation 2.
Price matters.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially when you're talking about like something that some people may think they're not going to get a ton of use out of.
Right.
Which with VR,
and anyone who
things are looking up, though.
And anyone who owned a Wii, I can see why you'd be gun shy after the motion control thing.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your pick?
My pick for best VR game is Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Been getting a lot of buzz out of E3.
Which is one of the most fun things I have played in years.
Wow.
And
are you a Star Trek fan? I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Not really.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not on the level I'm a Star Wars fan. I like Star Trek. There's, I walked into the Marriott Hotel on the last day of E3 right behind LeVar Burton and kind of was freaking out a little bit. Although I admit, not so much because of Star Trek, but more because of reading Rainbow. Let's be honest. But like, I like the trappings of Star Trek. I've had there's a lot of things I do. I like a lot of Star Trek movies. Not the new ones, but I like the classic ones. I like the classic series, okay. I like the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine very much. And just enough that to sit there on that bridge, even though the bridge is more like the Abrams bridge in the game, but to sit there on that bridge and you look down, it was an Oculus, and with the Oculus motion controls, which I'd never used before.
Yeah.
And just you look down at your Star Trek body in the game, and you can see your whole body, and like, as you look around with the headset, the body moves with you, and your hands are exactly replicated in the game. Like, and so, like, when you reach down and poke things...
Were you using the touch controllers?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you reach down and poke things. But, like, when you look around, you look over, and, like, I was on Helm, you look over, and the guy on Tactical is right next to me, and he looks over at me, and he waves. And I was just like, yeah! Like,
that's trippy.
And I look over at Engineering, and the guy who's playing Engineering is still fussing with his headset, and so that character's hands are, like, up on his head, like doing this. I'm like, oh, he's messing with his headset. And I'm looking around, there's, like, other crew members that are not players around, and the sound is going with the beeps and the boops and the engine thrum, and whenever you turn your head, like, where the beeps are coming from switches in the stereo setup,
wow.
so you can tell which console that beep came from, and the sense of place, like the sense of being in a place, is so strong that I just, if I wasn't already a VR believer in the terms of, like, if I hadn't already played VR stuff before and understood, like, how powerful it was, this would have convinced me.
Yeah.
And, like, when you charge up for warp, you have to push the handle to, like, go to warp.
Yeah.
And when I reached over, the way you reach over, you move your hand over, and when the hand sort of, like, latches to it, you press the trigger button, and that engages your touch on it.
Your grip, yeah.
When I reached over like that, my physical hand was surprised I didn't grab a lever.
Really?
Like, it was surprised to not get the sensation of
feedback.
grabbing a metal lever and doing that. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Trip you out.
And it was the game itself, if you really break it down to what you're doing, not
it's
really
nothing,
that good. It's not much. I'm steering the ship. I'm, like, controlling the speed. I'm locking onto the targets.
Yeah.
And, like, the guy, what you're doing is fairly simple, but all four of you, because the captain is more just barking orders, all four of you have to work together to kind of make it all happen. And it's not that complex, but it's like Rock Band. It's like...
Yeah. It's that feeling. It's just like being in a real band when everything's working together.
When
it
all
kind of
comes together,
feeling,
and you get and it's as what was it? Tom Chick on Quarter to Three, when he reviewed Rock Band 1 or Guitar Hero 1, said that it's the closest thing you'll ever get to having sex with your straight male friends. And I'm like, I totally understand I would never have thought of it that way, but I'm like, yeah, I kind of get what you mean there.
Yeah.
And, like, this was similar in the like Rock Band, where you're like, wow, we just did that. We did that song. We played that song, man. That was great. Like, and, like, everybody kind of, that moment where the drummer saves you with the star power, and then you save someone else. Like, that's that same feeling of, like, we're all working together towards this goal. We're all a little overwhelmed by what's happening, but we got it there. And in this case, you are in that world.
You're sucked in there.
And it's crazy.
Because that's what VR to me is really about, is creating that sense of presence.
Yeah.
Where you're there.
Yes.
Like, in a video game, you're still looking at a TV screen. And no matter how hard you try, the fact of the matter is you can't convince your brain subconsciously that you're there. You just can't.
Yeah. Well, there was a moment we got our ass kicked a little bit because our engineer didn't quite understand how to beam things over very quickly, and so we can't put the shields up while you're transporting, of course. So we're getting hammered by the Klingons, and like, fire starts over in the corner, and, like, at one point, like, one of the other crew members, it's not a player, it's just like an NPC crew member, but she gets thrown over the railing, and she's, like, dead in front of me, and the console next to me is on fire, and I'm just like, shouldn't someone be doing something about this? Like McCoy, where are you? Like come on, like, we got injured up here. But it was like that kind of, like, feeling of, like, you're almost like you almost rock with the ship as it happens. It's great.
Yeah.
It's the experience is many times more than the sum of the parts.
And I think people may just be looking at this trailer and they're like, Matt's insane. Like,
it looks silly. The graphics look pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, but
it's the feeling.
I'm telling you, once you're in there, once you look down at yourself and around and everything, your brain suddenly tells you, like, you're on a starship, bro. Like, here we are.
The feeling, yeah.
It really works. It really, really works, and it's going to be a great online game and a great party game.
It will be a great party game. Imagine if you've been having a few drinks and you start doing that.
Oh, yeah.
People will lose it, man. It's awesome. My pick for Best VR Game of E3 2016 is Farpoint. This is the first-person shooter that was just announced for PlayStation VR at the show. What really sold it for me, and I don't know, even people may not even know that this exists yet, but there is a gun peripheral that is coming out for PlayStation VR, and this is the first game that utilizes it. And having the gun in your hand makes a world of difference. In fact, when I first started playing this game, I didn't even play the game. What I did was I looked down at the gun and then moved the gun in 360 degrees to look at the sides of it, and it tracks the gun. So when you tilt the gun to the left to look at the left side of the gun on the screen tilts to the left. Stuff like that blows your mind.
It's that sense of place.
Yes. It's not even the sense of you in place, but this object that you have in your hands.
Yeah.
It tripped me out, dude, so much that I almost, the game started, and I just kind of, was standing there, and, I felt like the person who was running it, tapped me on the back, wake up, bro, what are you doing? You're just standing there. And then, it's also, I would say, probably the best-looking PlayStation VR game that I've played. I agree with you 1,000% that the drop it's Vive, drops down for Oculus, and then drops pretty significantly down for PlayStation
it's noticeable.
VR. And this game mitigated that. It looked pretty much as good to me as an Oculus game. And that's the first PlayStation VR game that I could say that about. I don't know how they did it. I don't know what they're doing to make it work, but you can even see in this footage that we're showing you right now, think about all the other PlayStation VR games that you've seen. Do any of them even have fog and dust in them? No. Because it particle effects,
This looks way better than I thought PlayStation VR games would look.
It's by far the best looking PlayStation VR game. And coupled with the gun, and I don't know if the guns, it's probably not going to come with it. It's probably they'll charge you $50 for it or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like you can probably emulate this with the motion controller, but it's not going to be a comparable experience.
But see, the other part about the gun too that's important is when you put it up to your shoulder, the gun on the screen comes up to your shoulder, and you look down the scope you're looking down the scope of the gun. It's really hard, and with every VR, it's so hard to put into words what makes it so compelling. But it's just having that gun when you pull it up to look down the sights, and you're looking down the sights in the game, and you put it down, and you're firing from the hip, and you're really firing from the hip. You can't put money on stuff like that, and it's hard to explain it. People have to try it. I actually just saw. I had to get some cables at Best Buy on the way over here. I saw Oculus in Best Buy, and someone was playing it, and there was a woman there telling them what to do, and there was 3 people in line behind them, waiting for their turn. So, hopefully, I think PlayStation VR actually starting today is in a dozen cities in the U.S. or something like that. So there's a chance you might be able to actually try it. As we've been saying all along, you really have to give this stuff a go to really understand it. Looking at that game, I'm sure you're watching on the screen, you're it looks like a generic first-person shooter. It does. It looks like a generic sci-fi first-person shooter, but
it is different.
Yeah. Well,
it's a way you've never seen it before.
Yeah. I love...
And the way it tricks your brain, a good VR game tricks your brain. I'm going to wait for
the peripheral helps.
Yeah.
Big time, man. Instead of just holding
I'm going to wait for the
your
first
hand
person
out.
who has a heart attack playing a horror game on VR.
Resident Evil 7, man.
Yeah.
If it's the kitchen demo, which is just a short little teaser for 15 hours. Oh my god.
The demo is very similar to an Outlast kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, it's different. Because I know, people I know who've played just the demo, they download the demo, they play, they're it was okay. It was. I'm yeah, but when you're in it.
Yeah.
And when you got the headset on and you are there and you look down at those arms and you think those, and when that bug is on you and you do that too,
yeah.
like it's different. It tricks your brain. It tricks your brain in a way that like a flat screen just doesn't.
Nemec is asking how, and I'm only bringing this up because you mentioned this before we went live. He's asking how comfortable is PlayStation VR for someone who wears glasses.
I did not find it very comfortable. I had trouble.
Matt had some issues.
I had trouble fitting my glasses. My glasses are not very big, but I had trouble fitting my glasses into some of the headsets. I did pull it off a couple of times. I think if I'd been given the time to if it was my headset in my house, I'd figure it out and adjust it perfectly. But in a situation where, like, people waiting in line, you got to get moving. I played the Eagle game without my glasses because I just couldn't get it to fit.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that, like, because the screens on VR are so close to my eyes, because I can see like for about 10 feet perfectly, and I was hoping that like I would just be able to see the screens and be fine.
So you're nearsighted.
No, I have astigmatism.
Okay.
So I see everything fine in general, but detail starts to vanish after about 10 feet.
Gotcha.
So, like, I can tell you what kind of car is in front of me on the road, but I can't tell you what the license plate number is. It's basically, so it's like the difference between SD and HD would be the difference with my glasses and my. So I was hoping I'd be able to see the screens because they're basically pretty close to your eye, right?
Yeah.
But whatever they're doing with the focal length on this thing, like my vision in VR is the same as my vision in real life. So like once you get past about 12 feet, I can't really. I just see generally what I'm like the objects there. I can't tell you details about them.
Yeah.
Which I was. I mean, I can drive like that, and I can fly like an eagle like that. It turns out. I kept the glasses on for Star Trek. They fit okay. But the problem was when I was putting them on, it scraped the inside of my eyelid, and so there was a big smear on my glasses the whole time. And then the PlayStation VR fit over my glasses just fine.
Oh, okay. So there you go, Nemec.
There's a thing on the PlayStation VR where there's like a little button here, and you pull it, and you can kind of, because once you get the head part on, there's a little button here you can control like a slider on the actual goggle part that can move out and in, so you can kind of set it on your face, right? And you can move it out to make room for the glasses, and it doesn't ruin anything. So the PlayStation VR was actually, I had the easiest time fitting my glasses in, but I think I might just go get contacts.
Yeah.
For
VR.
Just for the VR revolution. Or like tiny little John Lennon glasses or something.
Yeah.
I need
I'd
something
love
that's
to
gonna
see you with those on.
Oh, I wouldn't wear them for anything but the headsets. But it wasn't terrible, but clear. I think you'll have to do some work to fit. And like these are pretty small like glasses, like the big hipster glasses. I don't know how people would fit those into. Like, I don't know how Anthony Carboni is putting VR headsets on.
Yeah. Maybe he has contacts just for him. Like
he probably does. Yeah. I mean, it's going to have to happen if I'm going to do this.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, here's a genre that's like dying. It used to be like the most prevalent genre in the industry, but it is dying. Best action adventure, and the reason it's dying is because a lot of games that used to be action adventures are becoming action RPGs. They're including RPG elements. God of War used to be an action adventure. That's becoming a light action RPG. So it was actually kind of hard to find like a lot of good picks for this. What's your choice for best action adventure?
My pick would be For Honor.
It kind of has to be, right?
It's one of the few even that has a little bit of like character building in it, but like there's loadouts and stuff. It's not like there's no like XP there was like points and stuff you get. Yeah, when you like I think
every game. It's like I said like a month ago. Like eventually every game's going to be an action RPG.
I can't remember, but like there is some level of loadout, and you can choose which character what armor is and what your kind of loadout is. You can pick male or female characters, so there is a little bit of that, but it's not anything on the level of like what we saw in like the new Horizon demo or anything like that. So yeah, we've been over For Honor, but like it's right up my alley. I love the guy who's making it and his enthusiasm for the product and for the enthusiasm for the subject matter, and it feels like a passion project to me when I play it. And like there's some moments in it that really kind of evoke the dark and smoky and just dark, disgusting feel of like being in one of these medieval battles and people just falling off ladders and crazy shit. So like and the Lord of the Rings fan in me digs it.
It is like the classic action adventure.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, I think we've talked about this game enough. Obviously had a pretty decent showing at the show as well, in addition to last year. And it has our favorite presenter of the entire show.
When Aisha Tyler didn't want to do it anymore, just hand it over.
Yeah. I still am wondering if that cane is a prop.
Can't tell.
I can't tell either.
He had it with him when I saw him
Did he?
in the demo room. Yeah.
Did he?
Like, I don't know. I mean, if I looked that cool with it, I wouldn't. I'd take it
I'd be
everywhere
rocking
too.
the cane too. Yeah. My pick is Dishonored 2. I really struggled between Dishonored 2 and Gears of War 4.
Well, I like we have honor in both of our
exactly.
titles.
I'm Dishonored and you're for honor. So I've talked before about the first Dishonored, about how I really wanted to love it, but it seemed kind of drab and dark and dreary. But what they showed at E3 2016 was way away from that. Like, I was really impressed with how vivid and alive the game feels. It felt a lot more immediate. I always felt like I had no motivation to do anything in the first Dishonored. I feel like there's more of an immediacy in the sequel. Obviously, the color palette, a lot more vivid than what you had in the first game. Still lots of browns and grays, and it's certainly got like kind of a steampunk vibe to it. But what I like most about this, when I started like saying, okay, should I choose Dishonored 2 or should I choose Gears of War 4, what I really loved about Dishonored 2 is the flexibility you have in how you play it. Like, even based upon what we saw of Gears at E3, it looks great, and there's some new elements to it. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be, you're still going to go down a cattle chute, and you're going to kill everything that shows up in front of you, and then you're going to move on, you're going to kill everything that shows up in front of you. The flexibility in how you tackle each opponent or each scenario or each area of the game in Dishonored kind of put it over the top for me. The demo I thought was really compelling that they showed at the Bethesda press conference. I love this whole mechanic that they showed where it like shows like basically when you look through that glass, it's like showing you a different time period. Like, I've never seen anything like that in a game before. And certainly, while Gears of War 4 looked pretty good, I can't really say that there was any part of it where I felt like it was something that I had never seen before. Obviously, the pedigree that goes into this game speaks for itself. If you're a fan of Deus Ex, you're probably going to love this game. I am a fan of Deus Ex. But, yeah, this mechanic is so sweet, dude. How you look through those shards of glass and it's showing you, like, a different time and space. Like, the game's looking hot.
Yep. A lot of new ideas for the stealth genre.
Yeah.
Which is good to see.
Yeah. And but the thing is, you don't have to play it stealth if you don't want to. Like, that's why I like it. Like, I don't really like stealth gameplay all that much anymore, and I like that I don't have to play it that way if I don't want to. So, this is the modern action adventure, ladies and gentlemen. Dishonored 2.
I really like this. You can just watch people freak out from another time frame.
Yeah,
another timeline.
Another time period, yeah. It's just another layer on the onion for a series that already had many, many layers. So that's kind of what put it over the top for me. Dishonored 2, my pick for Best Action Adventure of E3 2016. Let's move on. Best Strategy Game. Not many of these at the show.
No, not so much.
Not so much at all. Like, there was, like, 4 strategy games. I'll tell you what, like, doing these awards, like, it just reminded me again of, like, how awesome Sifted is. Because, like, I went to our E3 hub, and I was like, you could spend hours and hours trying to pick these. But all I did was I went to our E3 hub, I went to the channel nav, selected whatever genre it was, and then just sorted the hub by the week. And ding, 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 ding. Because obviously I have my SIFT ratings there. So it's going to bubble up automatically the games that I would like more in each one of those genres. And that's how I managed to, like, pick these all in pretty short order. I remember lots of, like, best of E3s at GT or at G4 or Tech TV or GameSpot where it was, like, a nightmare. Like, literally, like, 2 days of, like, trying to figure out my nominees and my winners was Sifted. I just bam, 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 solved it pretty quickly. That's how but to my point is, that's how I actually figured out what strategy games were at E3. And there weren't many. There was literally, like, 5, I think, total, like, at the show. Yeah, so what was your pick?
My pick was the only one I played, but shouldn't surprise anybody. Gwent.
Yes. Well, I think even if you'd have played a million strategy games, you still would have picked Gwent.
I think so. Was Dawn of War 3 around? I didn't see that.
It was not on the floor.
Okay.
But they did do the tour around all the websites and did on-stage demos. But
Okay.
I didn't get to play it.
Well, I got to play Gwent, and as someone who probably put about 15 to 20 hours into it on The Witcher 3, what they're doing in this game is very far I mean, they could have just taken Gwent from Witcher 3 and dropped it on iPad and called it a day.
Yeah,
But
free to play, right? This game is
free to play with optional purchases for probably card packs or whatever. But all new art, all new game mechanics in terms the game flow is still the same, but all the cards do different things. Like they've rebalanced everything. It's got campaigns, multiple campaigns that will add more later as well. The campaigns are about 10 hours long each. Written by the woman.
That's shocking.
Yeah, written by the woman who wrote the Bloody Baron quest in The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
They showed some of it. It's got an overworld where you can explore around and find ruins and find new cards and recipes in there to craft cards. It's fully voiced with all the voice actors from returning characters, new characters, the whole deal. And then there's an online multiplayer, and they basically showed us all that stuff, and then they had us play against each other on computers. I picked Northern Kingdoms, which was my my go-to deck in the main game. Instantly recognized that everything was different. I mean, there's a lot of differences, and this card does this now, that card does that. And I could just see the possibilities of how this deck is going to work now, unfolding. It's like, oh, this does this. Oh, that card's not useless anymore, because now it works with this card and that card. And you can summon it. And I won in 2 straight rounds, which is very unusual. Usually I give up the second round to get the third round. Won in 2 straight rounds, and in the second round I beat the other guy 110 to 10.
Oh my gosh!
And
had he ever played before?
No, he had never played before, but he also had no chance.
Gwent is confusing if you haven't played it. The first couple games can be hard to.
Well, this is a much more. I mean, the flow is the same. The way the turns work is the same. There's no, it's kind of unique in that the card. It's just all cards. There's no mana. There's no fuel. There's no lands. There's no external way to power your abilities. It's just each card does a thing.
Right.
And it feels very kind of pure in that regard. Actually, that's one of the reasons I like it. But as I was putting it down, all these different cards down, and seeing how these new things worked, I just saw, oh, this is going to be possible to do. And then it made me wonder, oh, what do the other guys do now?
Right.
And it was great. It was. And then they have premium card. I guess when you're buying the microtransaction stuff or whatever, sometimes you can get premium cards, premium versions of cards, and those cards are animated.
Oh, cool.
And they're full animations of so they had the Fiend card, which is the giant deer monster thing that they demoed The Witcher 3 with.
Yep.
So the card of that is this guy standing in front of him, surprised by him, I guess from a forest, his back to you, and it's just standing there and just sort of like that. And this thing is so animated. You can rotate around it kind of 45 degrees, and it's so animated that when it breathes out, the guy in front of it's clothing ripples with the
wow.
They have this new art director, and she was there in the demo, and she must love every single character and monster in this series, because she has just the art in the Gwent stuff was already good, but the art on these the new cards is just it's jaw dropping. Some of the stuff you put on a poster.
Is it coming to other platforms besides mobile?
It's
coming to consoles?
Xbox, PS4, PC.
Okay.
The whole deal. There's a beta test or closed beta or something this fall. I don't know. I don't think they really said when they think it's coming out, but yeah, free to play, 10-hour campaigns. They want to
complain about that.
They want to add more campaigns later, and
so where do they make money?
Microtransactions, buying the cards.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you'll earn packs or whatever for doing campaign or winning on online multiplayer, but as we know, if you really want to be competitive, Hearthstone players, you gotta spend some money.
Premium.
Woo!
That's how it works.
But as a fan of the card game in the game, this was a really cool expansion of it.
Yep. My favorite strategy game of E3 2016
was the other one.
Yeah, well, Dawn of War was there. I didn't play Dawn of War, but even if I had played Dawn of War, this game would have won anyway, because I'm the biggest fanboy. Civilization 6. You could have put any strategy game in front of me, and this was going to win my best strategy game of E3 2016. With Civilization, the changes are usually subtle, and it's hard to really understand the ramifications of them until you're at like turn 800 or whatever. So it's kind of hard, I felt like, for them to demo like a lot of the changes that they made to the game. So I can't even really say whether I think the changes are for the better or the worse. They sound like they're for the better.
But that's the thing. You'll. Why did I go like Victorian? You'll not know until. That's something you can't really know until you've played a couple of 20-hour games of this incredibly absorbing. And compared it to all the others, and compared it to hundreds of hours you've played on all the other games, and like, do you like this better than that? Yeah.
The bottom line is it's another Civilization. I've played every one of them. It's being built by the same team that made all the other ones, and I loved all of them. And so, to me, it's going to be really hard for a game to supplant this. It's my favorite, and maybe ever, in all honesty. It's just, I'm not even like a really big 4X guy. But for whatever reason, this game, it's just like digital crack for me, man. It's just the one more turn thing. Like, I think I had 30 minutes to play the game, and like they basically had to kick me out, and we're like, dude, you can't play anymore. Because it's like the time flies when you play this game, too. You're always thinking ahead. You're not thinking in the moment. You're always thinking, like, what's going to happen if I do this? It's like chess, but a little more complex. So it looks great. I wouldn't say it's a tremendous boost over the last Civilization, but, it's a pretty simple game. It doesn't need to compete with God of War for best graphics. It's more Civ, and that's good enough for me. And it's my best strategy game of E3 2016. All right. Best fighting game. Matt, I respect your opinion on this a lot. You are a fighting game aficionado, in my opinion. And every time I hear about a new fighting game, and I know that you've played it, I'm always interested to hear your opinion. So what was your pick?
My pick is the King of Fighters 14.
Okay.
Which, I'm a fan of the old SNK games. I think they lost their way a little bit over the years. I wasn't too impressed by 12 and 13.
It's fast as hell.
They are, yeah.
This game is so damn fast.
Which is not a King of Fighters tradition.
Right.
I mean, SNK games are often a slower fighting game than Capcom's. But this game, they've switched to 3D in this one, and I gotta say, like I played two matches of it over the course of E3, and it's faster. It feels very responsive. The hits feel good. The hits feel good in a Street Fighter 4 way. The hits feel good in kind of like that meaty, like impactful way. I really dug it. It was nice to see all these characters back. They're doing them in 3D and they're recognizable.
3D, yeah.
Like they've really managed to kind of capture the classic SNK art style for
they
the
really
most part.
did it in 3 dimensions.
Yeah,
it's
it was
pretty
not
impressive.
easy.
Yeah,
as we've seen, like I like the Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 character designs, but they are clearly not transmuting the 2D versions of those characters to 3D.
It's hard to even recognize some of the characters in Street Fighter 5.
So
even characters like Ken.
Yeah, that hair.
Yeah,
but I thought I think this game's gonna be a really nice comeback for this series to kind of in this time period where like fighting games are kind of enjoying a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
And SNK has been a little bit, the King of Fighters has been left out of it a little bit. But I think people are going to like this game when they get their hands on it.
I played it on the floor. The one thing I would say about it that made it feel a little old to me is the character roster. Because you don't really see fighting games with like wacky characters mixed in with like human characters. Like either the game is like over the top, like a Killer Instinct, and it's okay to have like a dude made out of ice, or it's like Street Fighter where everyone's like caricatures, but still like
there's no dinosaurs.
Right, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
King of Fighters, I feel, has sort of found it. Everybody expects both of those character lists to be in there.
Well, there's 50 characters in this game. 50!
So you can't really... So on one hand...
We got, 21 in Street Fighter 5 or something? Or less?
Something like that.
16?
16, with some being... Like 4 or 5 being added over the course of the year. But, I mean, not only do you have to get everybody in there because you got 50 characters, but also, like, King of Fighters fans expect the serious characters to exist alongside those joke characters.
Right,
you can't disappoint either side of that fan base.
Yeah.
And some of that fan base are the fans of both of them. So it's just the nature of the beast. So it didn't really bother me, and I think they kind of found a way to synthesize the art styles so they don't look completely out of. I mean, the little Freddy Krueger guy is always going to look a little weird.
Yeah.
But I dug it. And it's not it's not one of my top fighting game series, but it felt good, and I will try to dive into this one as much as I can when it comes out.
Okay, my pick is Tekken 7, and I know you don't like Tekken.
Nope. I might play it if Akuma's in it. I mean, I did like that Akuma. I did see the Tekken 7 demo, and I haven't played it. They had the arcade version, I think it was, there to play in the
I
booth.
played the PC version at the show, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they were showing there, at least where I saw it. Where'd you go?
Bandai Namco's booth, like up in the
it's the PC version.
up in the boonies of the 300 offices.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the PC version. It was. I mean, it was smooth and really pretty. I mean, I just don't like Tekken very much, but I like that Akuma, like, he's still got his EX bar. He's got all his moves. They didn't Tekkenize him. He's a Street Fighter character in Tekken.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
What made me pick this is because it is different. It's been a while since a Tekken game has come out.
A full-fledged, like, real Tekken game.
Yeah, other than Tag, which still has been a while now since Tekken Tag Tournament 2 came out.
Free right now for Xbox Live Gold.
It is, yeah. It's a special promotion for E3. But it's been a while since I've played, like, a juggle-heavy fighting game. Like, even, like, the last Mortal Kombat X. It has some juggles in it, but I feel like they've toned that down over the years in that series. And we have Injustice.
Mortal Kombat's much more about the bounce hits now.
Right, and then timing the bounce to continue your combos. This is just like straight up juggle happy. And it made me happy. Like, I really had fun with it. like I get that Tekken is more of a casual fighting game. It also has kind of that weird mashup of characters too. Like, you can play as a bear in Tekken. Like,
play as a kangaroo, you can play as a raptor, you can play as a man who wears a cheetah mask his whole life. Like, who cares?
So it does have kind of that wacky element to it. But, I'm also kind of a fan of Tekken from, like, way back in the day. Back on the original PlayStation, me and my college buddies would just sit and play Tekken literally all night. Like, just drink beer and play Tekken and talk smack. And so I do have a bit of a soft spot in my heart for it. But it just felt good to play something that was a little different. You have Mortal Kombat X, but now Injustice is coming out. And even though it's not quite as gory as Mortal Kombat X, the combat and the timing of it is still very similar.
Yeah.
And King of Fighters 14, I did play it.
If we can be honest, kind of ugly.
Yeah.
I don't like the character models in
Injustice. Yeah, they all look the same. They're all just wearing this, like, weird power armor. It's like...
Also the face, I think the faces... NetherRealm seems to struggle with, like, non-repulsive human faces at times.
Well, the game just doesn't... It just doesn't look that good. Like, honestly, look even at screenshots that they've captured direct from their builds and the hair. Like, it just doesn't look that good. I don't know what's going on with that game, because Mortal Kombat X looks pretty good. I know what the story is with Injustice, too. But this game looks good. It plays good.
I like the slow-mo last hit thing it does, where, like, when it knows you're going to connect with that final hit, it'll, like, zoom in and do this cool camera, like, slow-mo move of the final hit of the match.
Yeah.
And there's some cool things in there. They didn't like go too far into the idea of what the story mode will be, but it looks like there's some depth in there. There's some.
I hope they keep it wacky.
I think it will be, but like
I hope we get those awesome CG sequences that we've been getting from this series.
It looks like they're doing it all in engine.
Oh, really? Well,
like all that stuff.
Okay.
All that stuff we saw with Akuma fighting Heihachi was apparently all in engine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's impressive,
because that fight.
It transitions
into a QTE.
You're right, it
that
does.
then becomes the fight.
You're absolutely right.
The match in the story mode.
You're absolutely right. And, Virtua Fighter is probably my favorite fighting series. I don't know if we'll ever get another one of those, to be honest with you.
And if we do, will it be any good?
Yeah.
The people who made that series great are long on to other things.
So, I don't know. I think Tekken and Street Fighter are the last two series that I really love that I'm holding on to. And I wasn't a big fan of Street Fighter V, so... I'm kind of holding on to Tekken here for dear life.
I will tell you this, though. You want to learn how like the basics and like the really fundamental stuff about how you handle a moment-to-moment fight in a 2D fighter, pick up the new Guilty Gear game on PS4.
Really?
Revelator,
yeah. It's been getting great reviews.
The tutorial on that thing, probably the best fighting game tutorial of all time.
Wow.
Like, really goes in-depth and does some cool shit.
I'll ask them for a code for that. Actually, I think they sent me an email asking me if I wanted it, and I was like, I don't think I even replied.
I recommend trying that tutorial. I mean, it's even for me, it's kind of review, but some of it is also like, oh yeah, that's why I do that. Like I do that on instinct because I've learned to do that, but I don't. Now it's like, oh, that's why. Yeah, that's right. That's true. So some of that stuff becomes so ingrained, it's hard to explain to someone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
And that game does a good job.
Okay. Let's move on. Best racing game.
Is there even a choice?
No, we can say it together.
Yep.
Forza Horizon 3. There was Gran Turismo Sport.
But we're picking good things.
Yeah, there was like no racing games or
Not
driving
really.
games at E3. There's a couple like indie ones, and there's a couple like VR ones. But as far as proper driving games, this and Gran Turismo.
Yep.
I wasn't even overly impressed with this. I mean, it's
more Forza Horizon, which is
Yeah.
good. It's fine.
I mean, it's weird.
Australia's a cool location.
Did you play the demo that they had there?
Nah, it was one of those things where I'm just like, I watched someone play it for a while. I'm like,
Yeah.
I get the gist. I've played 7 Forza games at least in the last 10
Well,
years.
this trailer is of the demo. It basically spells everything out for you. Basically, you start out like with a street car. You drive the street car for a little bit. Then you get like a dirt truck. Then you drive the dirt truck for a little bit. Then you get a buggy. And then like for the last leg, there's this like guy in a Jeep that's being flown along underneath a helicopter. And right before the finish line, like he actually drops onto the ground, and like your objective is to like beat him to the finish line over the last like 300 yards or whatever. It's fine. There's really nothing special about it, to be honest with you. It is fun. Like the handling is really forgiving. Like they had the driving line on by default on the E3 demo, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to playing like sim driving games because I haven't played a Horizon now for probably a couple years. And man, it was like the driving line changes colors, telling you like whether you need to brake or you should floor it. And like there are so many turns where I'm like, it's blue, and I'm like, no, bro, like I can't make this turn. And then like after like the first like couple minutes, I started like actually following the line, and man, like your car just sticks to the road like a rail. Like
This series
is an arcade racing series.
I mean, it's halfway to Outrun,
yeah.
frankly.
Lots of power sliding, lots of drifting. You get points. There's like objectives for each race that you need to accomplish.
Was there any like VO in it? It was like my constant concern.
Oh, there's voiceover.
My constant
Lots of
concern
it.
with Forza Horizon is like, are they ever going to get away from like the super broy like
It's still
car
there.
festival thing?
It's still there.
Oh,
Yeah.
well.
Like the guy in the Jeep like blathers the whole time, like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you," blah blah blah. And then like there's a girl flying the helicopter, and she's like yammering on and on. The game also I didn't think looked all that good. Like it looks really good in this trailer, but when I was actually playing it, like it didn't look this good to me. Like there was lots of weird like LOD issues with like the grass like drawing in along the side of the
I'll probably
road.
play this on PC anyway. So.
Yeah, I played the Xbox One version on the new Xbox Model S, I might add, which were all over the show. Really bizarre that they do not show the hardware at the press conference. Then you go into Microsoft's booth, and probably 60 to 70% of the consoles in Microsoft's booth is the Model S. And they never had the hardware on their stage. And in the booth, they actually had like a pedestal covered in glass that had the hardware in it. I'm like, why wasn't this on your stage at E3? I always saw it was like an image. It was really weird. I will say, though, that console is really small. Like it's like this tall and like that big. Like it is little. It looks like half the size.
It's at 40%.
It looks
40% size reduction.
And the power supply is in the console. So definitely some serious engineering. People waiting in line to play Forza Horizon with me were making fun of it. Like they were calling it. They said it looked like a VCR from the '80s, and
it is boxy.
It's a box, like just like the original model Xbox One was, but and it is like another like dust trap because it's just got like holes, all over it. Just like the original Xbox One model. But I'm still pretty impressed with it. It looks good, and I like the white, and it's a sharp kit of hardware. The new controller is good. We played pretty much all the games in the Xbox booth with the new controller. D-pad's a little better. Still not up to like the Elite standards, but it's better than what we got on the default. It's not quite as like clicky. It's like the default Xbox One controller. But yeah, this was what a terrible year for racing games at E3.
Yeah, there's
like,
nothing there.
2 games. And they did.
I can't even think of any other racing games on the floor.
No, that's what I'm saying. There weren't any. Like they did do Gran Turismo right. Like they had like the booth where you could sit in the little cars and like.
Yeah.
Whereas
they
for
had,
Forza Horizon, it was just kiosks with controllers.
And they had a little strip of kiosks that had like I think it was a new expansion or something for Forza Motorsport 6.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was like 3 monitors or something.
Yeah. But yeah, there was nothing racing wise.
I'm talking about a dying genre. Action adventure is nothing compared to driving. So
I wonder if that's partly because like people want like the real cars and stuff, and like that maybe racing games have just become surprisingly expensive, considering all the corporate like deals you have to make one that like satisfies the racing scene.
That could be it. Another part of it too is that we're getting driving in so many other genres now, with so many open world games with driving in it. It's like I feel like a lot of people are getting their driving fix playing stuff like Grand Theft Auto or Watch Dogs or whatever. It's like, and truth be told, the driving models and engines in those games are all pretty much as good as like what you're getting in strict racing games.
And frankly, like also the Horizon series is like another series that's sort of edging in on action RPG territory.
It is,
like oddly enough, like a
it's
lot of the
creeping
same
everywhere.
mechanics.
Father Shane prophesized several months ago that the whole world is going to become an action RPG. Well, let it be so.
Yeah, usually EA gives you your third racing game and is a Need for Speed game, but they were quiet.
This year. Yep.
Probably for good reason. They struggle to find what to do with that series. It seems.
Last one was not good. I
don't remember what the last one was.
I didn't really enjoy it at all. Need for Speed?
Yeah, which one
came out last year.
Last year? I didn't play that one.
Remember it was
I like the one before that.
Remember it was all FMV?
Right. Okay. Yeah. It looked too much like the
Talk about broy.
Yeah.
That game was broy.
It looked too much like
fist bumps into the camera.
It looked too much like The Run.
Yeah.
Remember the story-driven one they did?
That's kind of the same. It was kind of the same deal. All right, let's move on. Best adventure game. So this is like point-and-click stuff. Wandering stuff, laid-back experiences. Right. I sometimes struggle to even call them video games. What's your pick, Matt?
I didn't really play a lot of these. I missed the Telltale booth completely.
Yeah, it was tucked away. It was hard to find.
Which I saw like the picture of it on the Sifted story, which like I guess was set up like the Batcave, which was pretty cool. But didn't get to see it, so I kind of defaulted to Abzu again, which is definitely an adventure game, swimming through your ruins and trying to piece together a story with no dialogue. Like that's what they are these days.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen the Batman Telltale game, but was not to be.
I saw it, and it ran like hot garbage. And it was playing. They were playing it on PC.
So it was a Telltale game.
I mean, it chugged. It chugged it.
They have weird performance problems with a lot of their games, and I can't figure it out.
It was literally running at like 10 to 15 frames a second.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Like, and I was like, because were playing with an Xbox controller, and I was like, oh, this must be the Xbox One version. I followed the cord down, and it was plugged into a PC. Like, they got some work to do on that game. It does seem like it's pretty early, but I think it's coming out September?
Yeah, it's not.
Is that right?
Not forever. I mean, originally it was summer. I think it slipped to September, October.
Now I know why.
Yeah. They better move. They can't release that thing past halfway point of October. It's going to get buried.
You're right. It will get buried. I don't know.
Batman or no
games,
Batman.
like people kind of just love them.
I guess.
If
there's a thing coming out this fall where I can put the cowl on in VR, like I don't want to play the story. I want to put the. But the developer said like when people finally put the thing on and like look at themselves in VR in the mirror as Batman, he said one of two things happens: they start to pose or they start to dance.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, my pick for best adventure game, and I struggled between this and one other one, is Detroit Become Human. Look, it is a David Cage game. Like you walk 10 feet. And then a cinema happens. And then you walk 10 feet, manipulate something for a second, and a cinema happens.
Did you press X to Jason?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a big fan of this genre in general. It's probably one of my least favorite genres, next to like, I don't even know. It might actually be my least favorite genre now that I think about it. But this game is gorgeous. And I love the plot and the story behind it, and I feel like it's something that we're going to see in a lot of more games going forward. And we're seeing it with Deus Ex and a couple others already. This whole, what happens when humans start interacting with robots. And I love, like I said, I love Ex Machina. It's probably my favorite movie from last year. So I'm kind of a sucker for this subject matter. And it does have that kind of similar vibe to like Ex Machina. Very sparse music, very subdued lighting. The voice acting in it is great. The graphics are great. I enjoyed it. The amount of time that I played it. The demo wasn't very long. He did show like the same segment like 3 times over in a row, and like after the second time, it's like you get it. It's like, yeah, okay, we get it. Like you can do things different ways, and you have different outcomes. And he's like, well, but let me show you the third outcome, and you can hear everybody in the room go.
Like, how about you just show us the one outcome we're going to use a strategy guide to get?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's always a better one.
Or why don't you just show us the outcome that we're going to watch on YouTube instead of actually going through the game and playing it? But look, if you liked Heavy Rain or any of his other games, it is very much in that same vein.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, the gameplay is the same.
I mean, the only decision is really like, are you interested in the subject matter?
Pretty much.
I would say so. I mean, this is.
I was way into this. Like, I was enthralled with this game. Because it's like, the one thing I like about this is like, this is, and I guess there's an angle in all movies and games based upon this theme, but it's all about like the robots and the humans, the lines becoming blurred between the two, and which one's in control. And if the cyborgs or the robots decide that they want to take control, what can humans do to stop them, basically? So what happens when robots go rogue, I guess? It's like the whole idea of you've created your own problem, and you've created a problem so big that you may not be able to solve it. So there's like this kind of pervading sense of like hopelessness and like...
We've also got the angle of like, well, we created these things. Don't we have a responsibility to them?
And there are tones of that in this as well. So, again, I'm not a huge fan of this genre, but of all the games that I saw at the show, this was the one that hit me the hardest and stuck with me the longest. I'm still thinking about it right now, actually. I mean, I was thinking about it today whenever I was driving over here. And I guess to me, that's kind of the best sign of a successful adventure game is how long does it stick with you? Because generally, the gameplay's not going to do it. You don't stay up at night thinking about pointing and clicking or like picking up an orange and like looking at it. Like that's not the stuff that like kind of sticks with you over time. It's the plot. And the plot in this game seems really good. The characters seem legit. Like the voice acting for the robots is really good because they managed to allow just like this hint of syntheticness to it. I think I just made up a word. But it's not like bad voice acting. It's like sometimes bad voice acting may sound like someone's a robot. Like, however they worked with their voice actors on this, like they just freaking nailed it. Like you can tell they're not human, but it's not like the "take me to your leader" like crap like that. There's just like this very subtle like I don't know how to explain it.
Like a Data kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, even he was maybe a little bit too over the top. Like I feel like they do a better job with it here. The other game that was borderline for me is We Happy Few. That game is really freaking weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the demo that they showed during E3, but unfortunately that's all that they had to play at the show as well. So
a lot of Bioshock flavor to that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing about adventure games is like most of them, once you play them once, you've played it. So like the whole shock of what if We Happy Few they showed at the press conference, like, you know, when you know what's coming, it loses a lot of its impact. But with David Kaje's games, or however the hell you say his name, because things can be different every time you play them and there are different outcomes, it has a little bit of more of an impact. And so that's why I chose it over We Happy Few. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3 categories left. And, of course, the last one is the big one, Best of Show. So, Best Trailer.
I didn't think the trailers were too strong this year. Outside of things like you know the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare thing, like they put that up on YouTube as a trailer, but it's really a 7-minute gameplay.
See, that's
demo.
the thing. Like a lot of trailers aren't really trailers anymore; they're just gameplay, and then they name them trailer or whatever. That caused a lot of confusion by one of our curators on Sifted over E3 as well. Like a lot of this stuff, because they name it trailer, it would be tagged a trailer, but in actuality, it's like an 8 or 9 minute gameplay segment. Right. So
I'm gonna have to go with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
because it's a great trailer. nice.
And all-in engine. Not
all in engine. It's not
CG.
a cheat.
No bull shots.
So yeah, I think of all the trailers I saw, that was the one who stuck with me the most.
Yeah, the fight choreography, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Shows off a lot of what you're going to be able to do. Some of the traversal in that game looks insane. Like that one section where he's like going through that store and he like kind of this right here. That's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
Like all this. Why? If you watch all this stuff really clearly, wraps him up, boom, like ties his web to like a pole, wraps it around the dude. Dude gets shucked out of the car. Like, yeah, I think this is a great trailer, and this is a traditional trailer, by the way. It's gameplay, but it's all cut together and it's cut to music very well. There's lots of dramatic pauses here and there. There's the dips to black for emphasis. I'm with you on that one. My pick is, and this might be a little controversial, and I agree with you. Trailers were not great at this year's E3. In fact, there were probably 5 or 6 trailers that were released in the month leading up to E3 that were better than any trailer from E3. But if we're talking about something that stuck with me, Death Stranding, Kojima's new game. Is there any trailer you'll remember more than that one from E3 2016?
I forgot it already, basically.
Really?
There was nothing in that trailer that was interesting to me.
Really?
No.
Really?
It's a naked guy from Walking Dead. I don't give a shit. More like obtuse Kojima shit for something we're probably not even going to play till 2019, and a lot of dead crabs.
I would agree.
That clearly have had their weak spots hit for massive damage.
I would agree with everything you said, except there's nothing intriguing in this. How can you say there's nothing intriguing? There's this weird, like, baby laying with, like, a black umbilical cord attached to him.
Because I've played...
Where is that umbilical cord going to? What's that attached to?
I've played Hideo Kojima games before, and the answer is always going to be something unsatisfying.
Yeah, but look, now when he stands up, you can see that something has been cut out of his gut. He has a scar. That baby was, like, inside him, dude. Or something.
Well, I look forward to Hideo Kojima Presents Shower with Your Dad Part 2.
I can't think of another
clearly he's upset about it. But like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't really impact me just because I know to expect some ridiculous like answer to these things.
But you didn't. But here's the thing: when the first time you watched this, you didn't even know what it was, like, or whose game it was. Like,
didn't he? I thought he came out and like presented stuff.
I thought that happened afterwards.
And it says like a Kojima game.
At the end, it does. Yeah.
I just saw the credit thing.
Oh. Regardless, I don't know. I find it intriguing. Like.
If it was anyone,
what say you, chat?
If it was a creator who I trusted to tell me a story that didn't piss me off, I would find it more intriguing.
But I don't look.
But this is like if J.J. Abrams shows me a trailer for Lost 2, I'm also going to react the same way. I'm just like, yeah, do you even know what the polar bear is yet? Like, you have no idea. You have no fucking idea, do you?
I don't look at it that way. I don't say like, oh, because it's a Kojima game, I shouldn't care about the trailer. Like, what are those beings floating in the sky there? Like, there's all kinds of questions and intrigue in this. Like,
I don't know, but I bet they know you like Suikoden in Castlevania.
I don't know. If the idea of a trailer is to drum up intrigue and interest in a product, this was the most successful example of that, in my opinion, at the entire show. You have no interest in this game based on that trailer. None.
Not yet.
Really?
Maybe when we see what it is.
None.
Not really. It tells me nothing. It's just teaser. I'm very impressed they got it together as fast as they did, because I didn't expect to see anything from it one way or the other. I'm glad Norman Reedus is still working with him after the Silent Hill thing got killed. And he even put up like a anti-Konami little Photoshop thing on Instagram. You see that?
Yeah, I saw
He photoshopped
Konami's
Konami tears
on
Kojima's cup. So clearly Reedus is invested, which is good. But I have no idea what that game is, what it's going to be about.
That's okay, though. You don't need a trailer that's like, hey, here's this dude that wants to kill all these people. Like,
right. That's not what. But I don't care about what I was just shown there.
I do. I think it was the best trailer.
I guarantee you the answer is going to be nanomachines. It's always going to be nanomachines. And it also, like, the guys floating in the sky reminded me uncomfortably Prometheus, which is not a positive association in my head. I don't know. Spider-Man made me look forward to like this game I knew I'm going to play by this developer that I inherently trust to make a great experience, and that is just like, nope, Kojima sure is Kojima.
Yeah. It looks like in the chat.
Very pretty.
Looks in the chat like 70-30 people like the trailer. So
Kubrick of video games. That has given Kojima a lot of credit.
He's definitely not the Kubrick of video games.
He's the Kubrick of he's the Kubrick of video games in the sense that he's in love with his own shit and he takes forever to make it.
Yeah, that's an analogy.
I think Kubrick is a far more successful artist than Kojima is.
Yeah. The only other trailer that was actually in competition for this award from me was South Park, The Fractured Butthole. I mean, that trailer is hilarious. But that's
good.
like the straight up like generic video game trailer.
Yeah,
we get those all year long.
Same with like Battlefield 1 had a good trailer, but it was like
it
was a video game trailer, and they made us watch it like 3 times.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a traditional video game trailer. I'm just saying, like, after being at E3 for 3 days and sitting in here and talking with you about E3 for 2 or 3 days before that, like, it's the trailer I remember from E3 2016. And I guess a year later, like when we're sitting here a year from now, if you try to remember one trailer from E3 other than the Spider-Man trailer that you gave the award to, you'll remember it. Probably that's the one that you'll remember.
I remember because we talked about it, but when I did the sifted thing too to remember what things were, and I put in the click the trailer thing, look through, and I saw the desk. I'm like, oh yeah, that one, that happened. Like I would never have thought of that trailer when I was trying to think of the best trailers for E3 if I hadn't seen it on the sift.
Interesting.
Like, it made no impression on me whatsoever.
Wow, you're a tough customer, Kyle. All right, let's move on. We have 2 categories left. So you might want to start getting questions in if you have questions for us for the end of the show, because there's no trailer of the week, because we're doing a different format this week. So next topic, biggest surprise. So this is a game that, or new feature for a game or whatever that you just never saw coming. Matt, what's your pick?
Not to be repetitive, but Spider-Man for the PS4.
What do you think Matt's game of the show is?
You might be surprised. Couldn't play Spider-Man.
That's 3 awards for Spider-Man.
But
out of 12.
We didn't expect it to be Insomniac. We didn't expect it to be its own thing. We didn't expect it to be... I didn't expect it to look that good.
I mean, a surprise for me is that Insomniac's developing it. Because I really figured. I mean, it made too much
Sucker
sense
Punch
for
made
Sucker
sense.
Punch to make it. Yeah.
And I feel it made so much sense they just decided not to discourage us from thinking that until it was time to reveal it. But the fact that we went in not knowing, necessarily that detail or what this was going to be, and we came out getting we're going to get a Spider-Man game from Insomniac.
And chances are it's going to be really good.
So, yeah.
Although, I don't know. Insomniac's pedigree has definitely been a little diluted over the last half a decade.
I hope they do this one up right, because it sounds like there's a lot of people for whom this project means a lot.
Based upon the conversations we had with Insomniac at Pactor's Party, they're going to do it right. I mean, I can guarantee you they're putting everything they've got behind this game. Like, you can see it in their face.
Even to the point that the costume that people are like, oh, what's that costume? It's like, that's Insomniac's Spider-Man costume.
Well, remember you said I have one question, and they were like, the White Spider.
The White Spider. Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Yeah. And they're like, I'll be honest, because at first I was like, is this related to the movie? Because if he's wearing that in the movie, that's going to blow.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be in the movie, but it's like they have gone so far as to design their own Insomniac Spider-Man costume so that when people refer to their version of Spider-Man, he's visually identifiable.
Right.
And to me, that shows a lot of confidence in what they are trying to do here.
Yep, I'm sure there'll be some explanation for it in the story or something. Yeah.
There's never been a white spider logo on a blue and red suit before.
Never, yeah.
I mean, he's obviously the Venom black suit has the white spider, but it's never been on a red and blue suit before. It's a bold choice.
It is. My biggest surprise of E3 2016, Resident Evil 7. I sat there and watched that whole presentation. Had no freaking clue that was Resident Evil until the logo fades in at the end, and I was like, what? Like, we'll be putting up our Sony E3 press conference reactions video here in the next day or so, and you'll get to see me lose my crap over Resident Evil.
Although this was my other pick for
I think I lost
this.
my crap over Days Gone more than Resident Evil, actually, but
this was almost a coin
surprise.
flip.
I was impressed with the tech in Days Gone. This was me, we watched this whole thing, and I'm like, if anything, I thought it was like a new Silent Hill. Because, I mean, this is so out of character for, honestly, any Resident Evil ever. Mm-hmm. None of them have really looked like this. None of them have definitely ever been in first person, and that was what really threw me off. I'm like...
Just a really shitty spin-off.
Yeah. Like, I thought they might even, like, somehow, like, revived PT. Because you can see that's, like, the type of thing
Or it could
Sony...
be a new IP that just is like, you know...
But that's the type of thing Sony does in its press conference. It figures out what the fanboys want, and then it delivers it.
Right.
Like, and that what...
It's like, you want a PT? Well, here's PT, but it's not PT.
Right.
But it is PT.
Well, it could have been PT.
Yeah.
Like, they could have, like, worked with Konami and said, hey, look, we'll fund development, we'll develop it, just let us use the name or whatever. Like, Sony
Konami
does stuff
would be like,
that.
we're busy, we're making pachinko.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave us alone.
But it turns out it's freaking Resident Evil 7. And I couldn't be happier, man. Like, I am really stoked for this game. I think the one criticism I do have, and this is after playing the demo for myself on my own TV, is the fact that it's playable in VR is definitely holding back the visuals. Like, it is not even, I wouldn't even put it anywhere near, like, the top tier of games that we saw at E3 2016. It doesn't look bad. Actually, there are parts of it where it does kind of look bad.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff's pretty low poly.
I mean, like, but it's little things, and, like, you know...
The character models don't look great.
Well, not even things that look bad in the sense of, like, oh, that's terrible, but in the sense of, like, you open the pot, and, like, the food is, like, a kind of a flat texture, basically. You know, not a very detailed... You know, it's
not modeled.
It's not something bubbling in liquid. It's just sort of like, oh, look, it's a representation. It's like stage food, almost. And it's just, you know, there's a moment where you're like, oh, I mean, that's how we're used to things like that looking in games. But at the same time, it's like, it would have been nice to kind of step that up in this VR kind of... You know, the VR is so convincing when you're, you know, in terms of a technology. It'd be nice to have these elements in the game that, like, reflect that.
Because here's the thing. There are going to be a lot of people playing this game not in VR. In fact, the vast majority of people playing this game will not be playing it in VR.
Definitely, yeah.
And VR does fudge things a little bit. Like,
now we all know how the PC gamers feel.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people who are going to choose to play this without virtual reality, which is the majority, are going to be disappointed in how the game looks. At least if this is the engine that they're using, it leaves a lot to be desired. Now, playing it in VR will be absolutely excruciating and terrifying, but most people are not going to play it that way. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, the feedback from this. Like, again, it doesn't look terrible. It's just not top shelf. And you look back and you look at games like Resident Evil 4, one of the best looking games on GameCube, period. Like, no discussion. Even though you may not have liked 5 and 6, hard to deny those weren't great looking games. So I guess that's the one draw. Even like that baby there, like, look at the shoulder, like how polygonal it is. Like, it's like an octagon. Like, so that's a little disappointing to me, but otherwise I'm on board with pretty much all the rest of it. So I was completely, like, there was a bit of an inkling that it was coming. We had already created the game page on Sifted before E3, so we wouldn't have to do it on the fly when it was announced. So we kind of had an idea that it was coming, but not like this.
Right.
And not the way it was announced, and, you know, no introduction to it, just let it roll. And then the logo pops up at the end, and it's just like, what? No way! So I love moments like that at E3. That's why E3 is so great, man. Those moments where you just get your mind
like that
blown.
doesn't look very good.
I mean, there's the whole game is... We'll see.
But it's creepy, and it's different.
I would say they have a lot of time, but they don't.
Yeah.
If they really hit their release date, it's like January 26th. I mean, that's 6 months from now. It's not a lot of time. So... We'll see. Its initial showing still got me pretty excited. So
yeah, that would have been. I was pretty much my other pick for surprise, but I figured you were going to do that.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Let's not repeat ourselves.
We only had 2 that were the same out of all these awards. Okay, so we've got to our final award for the show. Definitely get your questions in now, because this is the last category. Best of Show for E3 2016. Matt, what's your pick?
My pick is Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Whoa!
It is the thing that sent me out of that booth with the biggest smile on my face.
Oh my gosh.
And it's...
I respect your pick, by the way.
It's the most fun I've had playing anything in VR, period. And it was the most fun I've had playing like any kind of co-op thing in a very long time. Like, I came out of that... If I wasn't already getting a VR headset, I would get one to play that game.
Yeah.
Like, it was that good. And I'm not even a huge Star Trek fan. I'm just someone who likes Star Trek.
Is that coming to PlayStation VR as well?
It's coming to everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's PC, PlayStation VR, the whole deal.
whole shebang.
I would probably recommend something with more, the visual fidelity, even though the graphics aren't great, the visual fidelity did matter.
Yeah.
And the motion controls on the hands were very important. So, I mean, I don't know. I haven't used the motion, the Sony motion controllers with the VR thing, so I'm not sure how that stacks up. But that would be a consideration I would make if you really want to play this in the best possible surroundings. But play this game with your friends, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Because it's a trip.
Yep. If you didn't believe Matt loved it, now you know he loves it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I mean, maybe if Star Wars Battlefront X-Wing VR had been on the floor, this might have been different. But
I respect that pick a ton, because basically what you did is you went to E3, what did you have the most fun with? Period. Mm-hmm. And of course you knew when you picked this, people were going to be like, you're crazy or whatever. I don't know if they are, but this is a surprise. Wow. At least they're surprised. What?
What?
But I respect you for sticking to your guns and just being honest. In all honesty, that's the game you had the most fun with. So that's your pick.
Yep.
It's your pick.
My runner-up on that was, although someone in here did call, my runner-up on that would probably be For Honor.
Yeah.
So Ubisoft did pretty well by me.
Yeah, definitely.
And South Park and all. Ubisoft had some good stuff, even though early on I think I was focusing more on the stuff that disappointed me, like Watch Dogs 2, and I didn't think Ghost Recon was looks good, but it doesn't look amazing. Both of us don't understand what Steep is all about, really.
Yeah.
I saw that demo, and the tech is cool, but I still don't really know who it's for. Maybe I don't need to know that. I don't know.
I'm the extreme sports dude, and
right.
I really have no interest in that game at all.
But if
it was just a good snowboarding game, I might have interest in it. But the whole paragliding and wingsuit crap, I just don't really care.
But Ubisoft did right by me.
It should be in VR, Steep.
It seems like a no-brainer.
It looks like it should be. It's not a great-looking game. It probably could run all right.
And the first-person skiing stuff might make you sick pretty quick. But
yeah.
All the wingsuit stuff seems like it's custom-made.
Yeah. All right, so it's time for my pick. You can help me with the drum roll. Horizon Zero Dawn. And I will tell you right now, until that game comes out, every single trade show that it appears at, it is probably with 95% certainty going to be my game of the show. The game completely blew me away. I cannot remember being more excited to play a game than I am for this game in a long, long, long time. I've kind of already gushed about it in the show, so I don't really need to go into much more detail about it, but I just love everything about it. I love the combat. I love the versatility you have in tackling enemies. I love the setting. I love the enemies. I love the mashup of the organic and the inorganic. I love the mystery behind it. Where are all these machines coming from? There's going to be some crazy twist where they find some crazy factory that's making the robots. It's just got everything. It's an action RPG, which is a genre that I'm really into these days when they're done right. It's gorgeous. I love the main character. I love how strong she is. I love that she's a man among men, but she's not a man. There's just no game that's as unique as this one, that's as well crafted as this one. The one concern I would say that I might have is the narrative. Does it hold up? Guerrilla is not especially known for great writing and great narrative. But I'm hoping that, that's the one thing we haven't really seen much of either.
I also hope they get a little of this LOD under control.
Yeah, you can definitely see the grass detail drawn in there when she rides up the hill. But, man, the demo that we saw behind closed doors, where the way that enemies adapt to the combat situations, depending on what you use, was just what really sold me, man. The AI of each enemy, and how there's also a weird ecosystem in this game, even though they're not even really animals. I don't know. I just love the game. And what I was going to say about Matt, his pick, is that people forget that this isn't us trying to guess what everybody else will think is the best game of the show. It's our picks for game of the show based upon what we experienced at the show. Matt, Star Trek, I'm Horizon Zero Dawn. And I love that game, and I cannot wait to play it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there you go. There's our Best of E3 awards for 2016. Be interesting to hear all the feedback. I'm sure there are some people crying that Zelda didn't get it from either one of us. But I think if you watch this show or watch the beginning of the show when we talked about Zelda, it shouldn't be too big of a surprise. Wait, what'd you say your runner-up was again? For Honor.
For Honor.
Probably a good pick as well. Okay, let's see if we got any questions from you guys before we close it out.
A couple people have been asking what I'm drinking.
No.
This is Blue Sky Black Cherry Soda. All natural. Blue Sky. Something for the Tori Amos fans in the audience. I'm sure we got a ton of those.
Yeah. Okay, looks like we got a ton of questions. From Unfashionable, did your opinion of VR change after E3 or change your plans of when to buy?
Not really, because the stuff that I was, stuff like Star Trek, it's not out. So
yeah.
If I buy it now, what am I doing? But I'm now thinking maybe I might go Vive instead of Oculus just to have a better experience.
Step it on up.
Yeah, we'll see.
It definitely changed my perspective. It went from something that I think I wanted to something I definitely want, and I feel like I would be really disappointed if I was left out of. Like what Matt was talking about, the communal part of it, making that human connection in a fantasy world. You can't really put it. You're right. Rock Band and games like that, when you're playing Rock Band with 4 people, and you're all nailing it, and you're all getting perfect scores, that feeling that you get in your soul, really. That's the kind of thing that you get from VR. It's really hard. Again, we say it over and over. You have to try it, and you really do. Make an effort. And look, it's a big investment. It's worth making the effort to go try it out. Even if you just go try Oculus, which right now is at a lot of Best Buys, go give it a whirl. Oculus is kind of the mid-range. It'll let you know. I mean, it's probably the best thing to try is Oculus because it's in the middle.
If you feel like it's not good enough, you might want to bump up to the Vive. If you feel it is good enough, you can sort of give the PSVR a shot.
But no matter what, it is good enough for you to get an idea if you're going to get that feeling we were just talking about.
Again, I will say I think the PSVR is the most comfortable of the 3.
Yeah, I think it's the lightest as well. It doesn't feel as heavy as the other two.
Also, it looks the coolest when it's on because it's glowing like a Tron
For
thing.
Sure, yeah.
And when you see all the people demoing it, all standing in a row in the Sony booth, it looked pretty awesome.
Yep.
I mean, in a really dorky way, but it still looked pretty awesome.
Oh, here's a good one. What was a game for which you had to wait the longest in line to play? Did it feel like the wait was worth it?
I don't wait in line for these things for the most part, but I did have to reschedule the Star Trek VR appointment twice. So technically, I waited 3 days to play that.
And it was worth it.
Yeah. So that was it. I didn't really wait in line. I mean, otherwise, it's most of the stuff I played, I waited maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I didn't have to wait hardly at all. Wednesday, I did PR appointments, and I was there on time, and they rushed me in.
Normally I either have appointments or I look for someone I know who can get me past the line. I don't really wait for things.
Yeah, Thursday...
We're spoiled.
We are spoiled. Thursday, when I went in, there was nobody there. Nobody.
Yeah, Thursday was nothing.
Every single person when I got there was at the Zelda line. So I literally just tore that show a new one in very short order. As far as the game I had to wait the longest to play, it was probably Cuphead. Because it was down on the floor, and most of the games on the floor, you had to wait maybe behind one person or 2 people. And with Cuphead, I had to wait behind 5. So it wasn't that long. I think I waited 15 or 20 minutes maybe to play it. The line that I saw that was the longest in general, although I didn't have to wait that long to play it, was probably Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves had a really long line.
It always had a line that wrapped around and outside.
That might have been the longest line that wasn't Zelda.
Yeah. And as far as what Matt was saying about how he kind of went with the game that he had the most fun with, I mean, I would say Sea of Thieves, Horizon Zero Dawn was more intense and interesting and thoughtful.
That's a game you really can't wait to dig into.
Sea of Thieves was really freaking fun. And it's kind of the same way you're talking about with VR. It's this communal thing because everybody has a role to play, but the roles aren't defined. So, when the other team, their ship starts coming towards you, it turns into this crazy scramble of what job is everybody going to do? It's one person will be like, I'll take the wheel, and I'm like, good, because I don't want to take the damn wheel. Like, I'll take the cannon, and someone else is like, I'll go down and like patch holes if they blow a hole in the side of our ship. So there's all these separate roles that you play. The one caveat I would say with Sea of Thieves, though, is that I wonder over the long haul if it's going to hold up, because
I've seen a lot of other articles that like have the same question. They're like, it's awesome, but how long will we want to play it for?
Because each role is pretty simple. It's like...
Well, also, what if you don't have your whole team there?
Well,
is it a solo game at all? You need to always team up with randoms?
The demo there was only multiplayer.
Well, they said that like there's like smaller ships, so you only need like one player to sail, but like obviously the point is to have everybody on these big
Right, but then you have a big
ships.
boat just come and just smash your ass. Like, I wouldn't want to be in a small boat in that game. But I did. The rounds that I played in that game, I had a total blast. So it's hard to ever say...
Sea of Thieves is the one game I wanted to play I didn't get to.
Yeah, because like I said, the line was
long.
You had to wait every time. You couldn't
just
just walk in and play it. Yeah.
Scorefear asks, I mentioned Rockstar signage at E3 before it opened, I thought was the basis for the Red Dead GTA thing. What was it for? That was for Gwent.
It was, yeah.
That was actually Gwent, which was interesting because they didn't finish that mural on the side of that building until like Wednesday evening. And there was still like white unpainted.
I could
for a couple
see where
days.
you got fooled, definitely.
But it had a similar art style.
Definitely, yeah.
And I wonder if they got some of their money back on that unfinished mural. Because it clearly wasn't done in time.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it was weird because.
Well, I noticed they posted the picture of it like when the show was ending.
Right, because they did finish it.
Yeah,
eventually, but it was interesting because the art style totally not anything CD Projekt Red has ever put out art style wise like that. But it's all the characters from The Witcher but as like nerds, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're caricatures of the developers or if they're like other people. I didn't get it. I didn't get what that was supposed to be. But I thought The Witcher, the Geralt guy, was going to be like a Rockstar parody of like a Steve Jobs sort of like aging hipster tech guy sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that was wrong.
Here's one from Erebus Jones. Question, does the internet owe Infinity Ward an apology after that trailer?
I think they'd rather just have your money.
Yeah, they would.
Apologize by buying the game, I think would be their answer on that.
I get what you're saying. Like, they did just, like, straight up shove it in everyone's face. But nobody owes them an apology. Everyone was just making truthful observations. Like, their last game wasn't good. Like,
I still stand by my fairly meh reaction to the original Infinite Warfare trailer.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Yeah.
But this was another world.
It was, literally.
Literally, right.
Let's see. This is from Super Cordon Bleu. After Sony's amazing showing an MS Scorpio announcement, how bad does Nintendo have to get the NX right?
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. Reggie already did an interview with Bloomberg where he already said we're not getting in an arms race with Sony and Microsoft. Pretty disappointing to hear. It sounds like he's saying the same stuff that he said before they showed the Wii U for the first time, which means it's probably going to be as powerful as Xbox One or PlayStation 4. Hopefully it's PlayStation 4 at least.
But at least I like the fact that Aonuma basically said, like, we decided that looking down at the gamepad for like two different screens was too confusing and took you out of the game, so there's no second screen in Zelda. I'm like, did you just admit that the Wii U was a bad idea?
But
dude?
he did, but there is, because Link has a tablet in the game.
Right.
Like, it's actually an object modeled inside the game.
Right.
And you do look at the gamepad. Like, not as much as it's not like a gamepad-driven game, but you still have to look down at it to do, like, your food crafting and everything. Like, it's still...
But it's not something you have to, like, look at
it's not required.
while you're moving around, while you're playing.
It's like, no Star Fox Zero.
No, not at all.
Thank God.
Which also to me says we probably don't have a massive second screen incorporation in the NX.
Here's a good one, Mnemic. How many companies do you think will learn something from Sony's conference and change their plans for next year for a better presentation?
Zero.
None.
No.
I mean, Microsoft should have learned that lesson 4 years ago. Like, it was funny, like, I was gathering footage for today's show, and, like, the Gears of War demo, I watched it again. What the hell were they thinking? Cutting away from that demo to, like, the stage. It's insane. But yeah, after Sony's press conference, everything else just seems so archaic and corporate and crap. Like, you don't need somebody to go out every time and stand there and read a teleprompter and say, now here's this game. Mm-hmm. Now let's bring out Billy so he can talk about the next game.
Well,
you don't need any of that crap.
They still treat them kind of like a permutation of investor calls.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's like a PowerPoint presentation. Mm-hmm. It's like, when I was at Viacom, we go to New York to see the people at New York and Viacom. Like, that's how, our presentations were. We had a deck, and, my boss would intro everything. And now here we have Shane to talk about the web traffic for the month. Hey, Shane. Hey, John. Thanks a lot. Well, let me tell you about the web traffic we had this month. That's exactly, how it's so stiff and stupid. I hope they all do. I mean, hopefully, all of us collectively will heap enough praise on Sony over the next year so that others follow suit, but I highly doubt it. I doubt anything will change.
You will never drag Ubisoft away from that, intro, talking, minor gameplay trailer, talking more.
Aisha Tyler.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
Not going to happen.
But at least we'll have Sony. But I wouldn't even be surprised if Sony went back and did, another press conference like they used to do.
Well, they got hardware to introduce next year, so there probably will be more talking. You know, we got away with basically an intro, an outro, and a weird little thing about Crash Bandicoot that apparently somebody cares about.
Yeah, not me.
I think people in the chat care about Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I guess I was too old for that one.
I think it looks like Unfashionable was saying you can play Sea of Thieves solo with AI teammates. That does not sound very fun.
Probably not as much fun.
Yeah, definitely not as much fun.
Geno Mike 1 asks, what game are you surprised was missing at this E3?
Oh, Kingdom Hearts 3.
He mentions Mass Effect, which is a good pick.
I mean, they at least had a trailer for that.
Yeah, but I think we were hoping for a little more.
Yeah. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 is the big one. That's one that sticks out to me right away.
They've got others. They've got two.
Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah,
didn't show that.
They've got two. I did call that one. I was not one of my main predictions, but I did call they would not show anything new on 7.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't even talk about it.
And I mean, even though it was one of my predictions, I am still somewhat surprised they didn't even mention HoloLens. At least to say hey, it's coming.
Yeah.
Or
because I don't think it is coming.
Maybe not.
The dev kit was $2,000.
Not for that price. I would never have guessed that.
They're way ahead of their time with that tech. Here's one from Palty Player. Was there any chance to find out what caused the delay of Zelda besides the obvious reason of releasing with the NX? Was any other reason given? No reason was given, but I can tell you what it was. It was because they changed it to an open world game. The game, my guess is...
What, you mean the delay to next year?
No,
or the delay from years from
3
back
years,
then.
from 2 years
ago.
ago.
Yeah, that was because they changed direction completely. The delay from this fall to next March was the NX.
I don't think that.
I think so.
I think this is their first open world action RPG, and they bit off more than they could chew, and they just couldn't get it done in time.
No, I think they delayed it because they don't want to release the Wii U version first.
It could be either or.
Could be, but I know where my money's on.
I don't know. Game still looks a little rough around the edges to me. Think about it. It would be coming out right now.
But no, it'll be coming out this fall.
Was it Q4?
Yeah, of course. It's always going to be Q4.
I thought it was...
They never gave a specific time, but they just said 2016. But I'm sure that's a Christmas game, man. That you release Zelda at the end of the year. Because it's the 800-pound gorilla. It's the only thing they have that can stand up to those other franchises coming out at that time. Put it out the week before Thanksgiving, you're gold.
Here's one from Rewind Play Labs. Do you think that overall this console generation has been disappointing so far when compared to last generation? Yes, I do.
It still feels like it hasn't quite gotten started yet.
There's just way less games than there were last generation, period. Whether you're talking AAA, B-level. The only thing that I feel like there's more of now is indie games.
Yeah.
But, as far as AAA, whether you want to be exclusive or third-party, the game count is way down compared to last generation.
And it feels like a lot longer spans of time between the major event games.
The risk-taking is way lower.
Yeah.
That's why I love Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a brand new IP. It's this wacky idea. Imagine trying to pitch that idea to somebody in a meeting, and convince them to invest $200 million in it.
And their response is basically, all right, make one more kill zone.
Yeah, pretty much.
And come on back.
Barf out one more shooter. and hopefully we'll make about $200 million off of it. But yeah, it has been disappointing. I would say the quality of the games that we are getting hasn't been disappointing, but the quantity has been disappointing. Mm-hmm. Quality's been pretty good. I mean,
what we've gotten has been, for the most part, pretty good, but like it doesn't come often enough. Basically.
Yeah, I think PlayStation 4 especially, like the exclusives for that console, for being the space leader. I mean, Phil Spencer made a good point at E3 again, just like he did last year at E3 when Sony kicked their asses, was that, once again, all our games are coming out this year. Mm-hmm. And with Sony, it's like, it just seems like there's this rolling schedule where things just keep getting delayed, and we keep seeing, like, trailers and gameplay demos for stuff that we never seem to get to play. Like, yeah, for the amount of money that Sony's generated on the PlayStation 4, the output, first party-wise, and Sony said it itself at the end of last year, and we're only 6 months from that. Mm-hmm. And what have we got to play this year so far? Uncharted 4? I mean...
Uncharted 4.
Pretty much. I mean, that output's not good enough to...
And they had nothing last fall.
Yeah, when you're the market leader, I mean, and what we got, Ratchet and Clank.
Well...
Which is good,
it's good, but it's not.
Nobody bought a PlayStation 4 for a Ratchet and Clank game. So, yeah, I would say that it has been disappointing so far. I would also say that probably in the next couple of years, it's going to be an absolute avalanche. In fact, beginning around October of this year...
You can see it warming up.
Beginning in October of this year until, like...
March.
Next E3 almost. It is going to be awesome. Like, next February, my birthday month, it's going to be happy birthday to me, because there are so many great games coming.
I get Persona 5 and For Honor on my birthday.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Like, yeah, the first quarter...
And that's, like, not even, like, the biggest stuff that month. Like, February is insane.
Q1 2017 is going to be far and away better than Q4 of 2015.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's see here. Yeah, somebody said Aisha may take a lot of crap, but she's a good presenter. She's a great presenter.
Yeah.
Aisha Tyler is. If you're going to do that style of E3 press conference, it's about as good as it's going to get. I love that she drops like street language while she does her presentation. Like, she just doesn't give a crap.
She kind of takes the piss out of Ubisoft too.
She does. Yeah, she goes after them sometimes, and I like that. Let's see. No Dragon Age this year from Nemec. Nope, didn't show it at all. What was the most cringe-worthy moment of E3?
The
Minecraft girl.
I mean, the Minecraft thing where they said, let's get out of here, and then they stood there for like 10 seconds was kind of...
There's a cringe compilation curated to Sifted right now, by the way. You can just search for cringe, and I'm sure it'll be like the first result.
Right.
The YouTube channel like put together. There was like Sony's like live coverage had a lot of really awkward moments.
I mean, the Xbox press conference demo of Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, that's where I cringed the most.
I felt sorry for everybody involved in that.
Yeah, it was not a good
Titan.
showing. I felt bad for Square Enix, man. It has so much tied into this game. It's like...
And it should be like a no-brainer. It should be a simple, like, hey, Final Fantasy 15, come on. Come play it.
You're right. It should not be that difficult. Okay, we should take one more question, if we can find one. Kadaz is asking about my prediction for E3 being a disappointment. I think we gave me a half a point for that one. Was that the one I got half for?
Yeah, I think you were right in spirit.
Yeah. 3 games coming out on Valentine's Day. You know, Battlefield 1, we ended up hardly mentioning that on our Best of E3 show.
It's true.
Yeah. If you'd have talked to me like 3 weeks ago, I would have thought that it would have been a big topic of discussion, but...
In the end, space fighters and spider powers.
It just kind of got swallowed up.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, that's going to do it for tonight's episode. Thank you for hanging out. I know we've got started a little late. I know actually the last couple weeks have been rocky with streams and everything else. We finally have all our gear. It will be working for next week's show, I guarantee it. Like, we have all the gear, we just need cables, and we thought we had them all, and we didn't. But next week it'll be all good. So it'll be good to get everything flowing in a normal direction again. It'll be good to get past E3 a little bit, too. I am so freaking tired, man. Last night I finally slept 6 hours. I had slept 4 to 5 hours every night this week, so I splurged and slept in so I would be nice and perky for the show tonight. So if any of you guys in Europe are still watching, by the way, thank you. It's like the next day in Europe at this point. It's like 6 in the morning. Like, it's time for you to go to work or whatever. So thank you very much if you're still tuning in. GameFace will be back. It's normal day and time next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. This was just a special episode of E3. Thanks to everybody who was on Sifted during E3 and made the community great and something fun to be around. We really appreciate it. So we'll see you next week. Everyone have a great weekend. GameFace is up and out.